And that means it's bug season. Heck, who am I kidding? It's always bug season in Texas. And that's why you need Grandeur Pest Solutions in your corner. They're locally owned and operated. They're trained, they're trustworthy, and they have a proven record as they have been in business for almost 10 years. They provide pest control against ants, bed bugs, bees, roaches, fleas, wasps, mosquitoes, rodents, spiders. If it crawls and you don't like it, they're probably going to take care of it for you. Now, they serve all of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they're locally owned. These two guys have been running this business since 2013, and every year they get bigger and bigger. But you know what they still do? They still have great customer service. In fact, if you get a hold of them, they're usually going to have your quote and your job ready to go within 48 hours. That's pretty good. Now, you can call them for a free estimate at 469-809-1769. You can find them online at Grandeur4, that's the number 4, shore.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Just type in Grandeur Pet Solutions, and we are so happy that they're title sponsor for Outdrink the Coverage in 2023.
Get out of here. You rotten bums! You overpaid wieners! Wild thing! You make my butt sting! I detest you! You're all garbage! All of you! Back up the truck! Back it up! See, I told you. Bring out the tarp. Cover the field. I can't do this anymore. It's over. Turn the lights out. Let's get the bulldozers in here and turn.
It's
Here we go! Here we go! Here we go!
pick up
Here we go!
and smile a while. Sing along with
I've got Studio Dog sitting in here with me.
we
She knows that I'm on suicide watch as the Dallas Cowboys lose their first game of 2024. Boy, that sure did look a lot like that last playoff game of 2024. As last two games in Noe, the Dallas Cowboys at home have given up a combined 92 points.
That is just crazy from a team that hadn't lost the game in AT&T Field in 16 tries.
Yeah, 16 straight wins in the regular season, 16-1 since losing the Tampa Bay opener in 2022. And I think also like 18-6 or something like that going back a little further. It was better. I think it was like 22-6. But yeah, and boy, whether it be Mike Zimmer or Dan Quinn, there's just something about when this defense starts giving up points, they're done for the day.
Yeah, it seems like this. It was just a team in general. They just, whenever they're pressed, it just seems like they just cannot respond. Which, again, if you want to be a championship team, you're going to be in stressful situations. And they had no response from New Orleans. The offense looked like they were pressed to score, like they were really pressured to score, and they just couldn't deliver. Luckily, Dallas has a really good kicker in Brandon Aubrey, who made 4 field goals, but when you're scoring field goals instead of scoring touchdowns and they're not punting, you're not going to win.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to break all that down. Hello, everybody, by the way. That's intern Noe the Pro. I'm Terry, the host. This is Outdrink the Coverage, brought to you by Grandeur Pest Solutions. If you're new to us, or maybe this is the first time you're checking with us since last year, you're going, wait a minute. This isn't already up and it's live. Yes, our regular season shows are going to be happy hour shows for this season. We're just testing it out. We had a lot of fun doing it in the off season. And honestly, it's a little bit more enjoyable than us having to wink and nod and do a show at 10 a.m. with a splash of alcohol just so we could keep saying, hey, we're Outdrink the Coverage. Now, so I have got for yours for this year when we lose, it's Stro, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You taken yours yet?
I smelled it and I got afraid, so I had a sip of my drink for the night.
I'm telling you,
but I will do it right now or whenever we talk about our players for the night.
Yeah, I'll let you do it when we talk about our two players. But this is going to be mine. If you know what 99 is, it's 99 proof liqueur. It's not even liquor. It is. I don't know.
Trust me when I tell you, because it's a liqueur and it's sweeter, it makes it worse.
It does. It truly, truly does. So we got these for the wedding when we went down to Corpus. And if you know me, you know, every year right before the season starts, I go decompress. I go to the beach for a week, just drink and eat all day. Okay, it sounds like every day for me, but it's on the beach. That's the
Well,
big
no, I
difference.
mean it's your way to unwind before the next
Yeah.
4 months of
Oh,
chaos, essentially, with the
oh,
NFL, with the high
oh,
school.
fun
Yeah,
begins.
I'm
Everybody,
sorry, fun,
oh my
fun,
God, your
fun.
job's so easy. Yeah, get up at 5 in the morning after drinking with Noe on Monday night and tell me it's fun. It is fun though. But so we got a bunch of these. We got airplane bottles because me and studio wife like to play a game called Airplane Bottle Roulette. And you buy like 10 of them, you throw them in a bag, you mix it up, and you just pull, and you drink what you pull. I like 99 proof, legitimately. I mean, it tastes like 99 proof alcohol, but like I can do a shot of it to start the day. That's a real good. You and I both like to do a real strong shot of something, and it kind of kickstarts your drinking day when you're drinking. But we tried one called 99 proof mystery, and it was the god awfulest, strangest, weirdest. I think they just mixed all their flavors into one. I really do. It was like doo doo brown. It wasn't even like bourbon brown or whiskey brown. I think I saw some corn in there. It was terrible. But luckily, today for me for this loss, and we will do a heavy liquor shot every Cowboy loss unless they just really go bad and Dak becomes Bryce Young. We'll do.
Ooh, too
Yeah,
soon. Too
we'll talk
soon.
about that here. Look, big breaking news on a Monday. So I'm doing 99 mangoes. You're doing Stro because the Dallas Cowboys got their ass kicked. I will say the rest of the Sunday made me just kind of go, okay, it's you get two of these a year where all the good teams just don't play well and teams that usually struggle play well. But I will contend that I think both the Vikings and the Saints, two teams that beat the better teams, I think both of them are way better than what people think.
Well, you also said the same thing week 3 last year after Dallas lost by double digits to the Cardinals.
And hey, that turned out fine.
It turned out fine for the regular season, yes.
This is different. That one sucked because that was a 9 out of 10 times Dallas wins, and that was just the 9th time. And and give Cardinals credit, they had a really good game plan early. This one felt like Green Bay. This felt like just an ass whipping. This felt like it feels like for the last year, every loss outside of the Cardinal one, the better team is just kicking the crap out of Dallas, and they don't respond if they get behind.
I don't know if it's because they're not used to it or it's just the coaching, but yeah, I agree with you. Like I said, anytime they're challenged, it's like they're pressing because they feel pressure to score on every play, to make a stop on defense on every drive. And you just can't play like that. You just gotta trust your instincts and just play. Don't think, just do. And yeah. I mean, it's just a classic case of what happened when I saw them play the Packers last year, when I saw them play the Cardinals. Any game they've lost the last couple of years has kind of been the same copy and paste.
Yeah, and by the way, if we're not going to pay for or draft or make any significant running back move, and we're going to pay what we're paying for CeeDee Lamb and what they're paying for Dak Prescott, why the hell are we trying to play a ball control offense? I mean, that just makes, and by the way, I'm all for the Lamb and Dak signing. That's my point. If you're going to sign those guys, and that's going to be what you base your team around, then why are we in a shootout situation not going, all right, screw it. Let's go to 40. First team to gets the 40 wins. Let's go, guys. I mean, to me, the offense shaving that. Like, that should be, you get to take the shackles off. Guys, we need big plays. We need Dak aggressive. Hey, if you throw some energy, throw some interceptions. Let's go down the field. And instead, we do this, toss right, handoff left, toss right, Dak bails them out on 3rd and 6. Toss right, toss left, Dak bails them out on 3rd and 7. Oh, and then it finally stalls with field goal because on 1st and 2nd down, you're trying to run the ball. I don't understand the philosophy of what we're doing compared to who we have signed and what players we have.
Yeah, I completely agree. They got these cheap rental running backs, and I love Zeke, but Zeke is almost 30 and he's past his prime. And they got Dalvin Cook recently. He hasn't even been on the field yet. I'm not sure when he's going to hit the field. But yeah, if you're paying those guys little and you're paying your receivers and quarterback a lot, why are you being more of a The offense doesn't match the money they're paying. Is basically.
That's a great way to put it right there. And it doesn't make sense because I mean, look, we can make the jokes of, he doesn't win in the playoffs. Last year he was really good against bad teams, but you finished second in the MVP for a reason. That means you're good. You need to be the guy that this offense is built around. And no, I'm not saying we have to throw it 40 times every game, but we've got to stop pretending. Like, if our defense is supposed to be as good as it is and the offense is supposed to be as good as it is, why are we playing a game that underdogs play? Underdogs play that let's hold on to the ball. Let's not give them the ball. Let's just hope that the defense makes a couple plays and then we make a couple plays on offense and we get out of there 20-17. They got to stop thinking that. And I don't understand why. It just feels like, once again, they're ahead of the curve in some things, but then offensive philosophy for the last 10 years, it feels like they can never quite get on the right page of what the NFL is allowing success-wise. Because every team knows right now, if a team's going to just run at you, okay, well, just hold them to third and long, and they're not going to be perfect. They're not going to convert every third and long, and then once they don't score, well, then you've now got ahead of them on what you call the schedule of drives. I don't know. Anyway, intern Nui, outside of the shot, how are you doing? What are you drinking?
I'm doing well. Today I'm going with gin. It's a Japanese gin called Mahei gin. Probably didn't get a good picture. There's a picture of it on the Facebook page, but it has your classic like junipers and stuff in your classic gin, but it also has like guava leaves and some other stuff. 47% alcohol. When Japan likes something, they usually try to perfect it. Like, I've noticed it with whiskey. I guess some of them went to Scotland a long time ago and love the Scotch there, so they try to recreate it. And I likes a lot of the Japanese whiskey. So gin is just a natural extension. I like it. It's not bad. I'm drinking it neat. Usually I would drink it with tonic or just over ice, but this is pretty good. I could drink it neat. Anyway, cool. How are you, and what do you drink?
I'm doing well, and I'm drinking what I always drink, Good Night Loving, in my blue little tumbler, chasing with some Gatorade and water mix just to kind of even out the flavor. We will, since you didn't do your shot when they lost, we will now do our shot again. We're doing this new thing where it won't always be the Monday Night Football teams, but we thought it'd be cool now because we love both of these players. First off, we honor UT legend, maybe the best linebacker to come out of a school at Texas that has some good linebackers. A guy that woefully, it's a shame that he's not in the Hall of Fame. Also, maybe one of the best uniforms in football history. That, of course, and a great helmet. Look at that helmet. That's a man's helmet right there.
Well, the Falcons have recently been doing this look every so often at home. Yeah. And I've told you every time I saw it, I love it. So obviously, I never knew that was one of their original looks.
That was the first look. This was the look forever. And then in the 70s, they went to I call it the Steve Barkowski Falcons because he was the main core. They went to the red and white, which I like as well, where they kind of lost me. And I don't hate it, but the red and gray in the late 80s was kind of like, eh. And then, the Falcons are one of those that they've almost done it right every uniform change. When they flipped over to the Deion Sanders look, that was awesome. I even liked the 2000s Mike Vick look. It got outdated, but it always looked good. Their helmet's one of the best helmets. They'll mess with the colors, but it's always the Falcon with its wing down. I think that's a great look. Again, the Falcons do it right, and they rotate these through the year, so you get to look at each one of them, which I still think every team should do. But yeah, Tommy Novus, dude, great linebacker. Just one of the.
He was part of the '63 UT championship team. San Antonio guy, college football Hall of Famer, still regarded as the best linebacker or one of the best linebackers in the history of college football. Finished 7th in the Heisman. He had a long career with the Falcons, multiple-time Pro Bowler and All-Pro.
It makes no sense why he's not in the Hall of Fame, like legitimate.
Yeah, Dan Reeves, a bunch of other guys come to his defense and say, "Hey, that guy should be in the Hall of Fame." He's come close in this decade, and I think eventually he will be. But yeah, Tommy Novus, man, one of the greatest linebackers. I'm glad we got to actually cover him a little bit because he died in December of 2017. So it's been almost 7 years. It'll suck. It'll be. He should have been in when he was alive. There's some guys that have been in that probably don't deserve it as much as him. Unfortunately,
I totally agree. Now, this next one, in honor of the Eagles, is not a Hall of Famer, but for a brief moment, he was one of the fans loved him on ESPN and stuff, and he also played for the Cardinals. He played for a few teams, but he was most known for punt returns on the Eagles, and that's first off, great name, Vi Sikahema. And what you're seeing, I'm using this picture because it's actually a video still. This is what he became known for, is against the Giants in a game that he had struggled. He gets a big kick return for a touchdown, and then he starts punching the Giants thing. And that was one of the first I remember ESPN moments where ESPN like showed that in every highlight. And Chris Berman, was all a big fan of it and stuff. And I love him because he had a key fumble and a kickoff against the Cowboys in their very first playoff game when they played each other. Not very first as a franchise, when they played each other the first time in '92. He had a kickoff fumble early in that game that the Cowboys recovered, and that kind of flipped the game on him. But yeah, he was a fun return man for a little moment.
Yeah, so he made history. He was actually the first Tongan to play in the NFL. He actually had a lot of success too. I mean, he grew up in Tonga. His family did a lot of work just to get him to the United States. They went from Tonga, I think, to New Zealand, then to like Arizona or California. I can't remember. But I know he won a state championship in high school for Arizona in the late 70s. He was a part of that 84 BYU team. He's a member of the LDS church. A lot of Tongans are. It's a big community. Yeah. He actually took 2 years to do his missionary work while in college, which is usually I think a requirement or something that a lot of
BYU. I mean, it's not a requirement, but if you're I think on some scholarships it is, but I also think just as part of their faith. No truth to the rumor that he was eating cats and dogs while he was an immigrant here in America. So we don't think he was. No.
So he was a part of the '84 championship team for BYU. A lot of people don't remember that they actually did win a national championship in the mid '80s. Multiple-time Pro Bowler with the Cardinals. They would drafted him in '86. Played for the Packers for a year. Ended his career with the Eagles the last couple of years. I remember him distinctly from the Eagles. I know he played for other teams, but for some reason, when I think of Vi Sikahema, I think of him as an Eagle only.
Yeah, I do too. And I think that's because mainly that famous punt return for a touchdown, and he starts punching the Giants thing. And, I think people, when you think of the 90s, you think of the Giants and you think of the Washington and you think of the Cowboys. And the Eagles was the one single thread through all three of that. They were decent to good for at least parts of all three of those Super Bowl runs. For the Giants, and Washington being one each, and then the Cowboys. If we ever do a look back at how did we wouldn't name it like the NFL. I think it's called Lost Rings. Ours would be more like cartoonish, like how the fuck did they not win? It would be. I know why they did win. It's Buddy Ryan. Again. And that's one of the first times I started going like, I don't like defensive coordinators. I don't understand defensive coordinators that just are like, screw the offense. Not only screw the offense, but I'm going to turn my own team against my own teammates. Like that's never made sense to me. And you hear some of the crazy stuff like with the Eagles and Cardinals and the Bears. And yeah, people say, yeah, all those players love him. Yeah. And how many Super Bowls does all those teams have? Oh, one that had a really good offense. Well, we're counting the Bears with him as defense coordinator. Okay. That had a really good offense. And, people, and I used to be one of them. I used to be one of those that be like, you can't really call the 85 Bears one of the greatest teams ever because their offense wasn't that good. Yes, it was. Like, go look at the stats. Now, their big problem was Jim McMahon couldn't stay healthy. But when he was in, dude, they scored. They moved the ball. Like they were winning games 6-3. They were going out and they were donkey stomping teams. But they know how to donkey stomp teams in the playoffs as well. Take note, Cowboys. But yeah, I ran through all the gamut of emotions yesterday. Noon games feel weird. They don't do them a lot. In fact, I think this year they're doing more noon games than they have in a few years, and it's still only like 3 total. Now, I know some can get flexed, and it just feels like every noon game's kind of weird.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. And then just yesterday alone, it was just a weird day of football all across the board, really. Um,
It was a
and
good. I mean, it was a fun day. Like just as a
it
fan, it was
it
fun.
was man, it was a fun day as a fan for sure. I see it still sucks that Cowboys lost. I'm over it. But man, just it was a weird day. Like a lot of missed chances for the Lions. The Packers
Cowboys.
won with Malik Willis.
Jesus
Uh,
Christ, dude.
the Jets won without Aaron Rodgers doing much of anything. Vikings.
I was going to say 2 games in, Aaron Rodgers looks his age.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not terrible, but he's just there's nothing dynamic about him.
First of all, shot to the 2 players.
You were trying to get away from the stroke shot. God bless ye, Mary, know we as you drink. Yes.
Lean.
This night is not bad, but tomorrow comes out your ass.
Vikings, basically, like you said earlier, they're that 2-0 team that I think they are legit. I told you last year when they hired him, I like Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator for them. I saw improvements with them last year. They look really good this year, but it's still week 2. But for the Vikings, I know they play the Giants. That means nothing to me. They play the 49ers, and even without Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason had 100 yards, and they still kind of put the 49ers in check for the most part. They kind of did the same thing last year when they played them on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, they just match up well against them. Yeah, I mean, if Aaron Jones doesn't fumble, I think this is back-to-back weeks he's fumbled near the end zone. Yeah. If he doesn't fumble into the end zone, they were about to go up 27-7. Now, give the Niners credit; they recovered the ball, they scored a touchdown, and they kept it close. But I mean, they far off to doing what happened to the Cowboys. Now, let's go ahead and focus back on the Cowboys for one other thing. I mean, we're going to bounce back and forth, but I think maybe we need to realize some of this is also the Saints. Not only what they did this week, what they did last week, we all were kind of like, that's the Panthers, and we'll talk about them here in a minute. But last week of the season last year, they scored 40. This is the first time this franchise has scored 40 points in 3 straight games. And one of the first teams to do it, I can't remember since. It was some big crazy, I don't think it was the 99 Rams. It's funny. You go look at the 99 Rams offense, and their stats aren't as mind-blowing now. They were in the moment, but they're not as mind-blowing now when you go back and look and you're like, okay. But not only that, they're 6-1 in their last 7 games. Their one loss was to the Lions. No, their one loss was to I can't remember who it was. Buccaneers, a playoff team, and then they destroying the Buccaneers 2 weeks later. If you go look at their last 9 games. They're 9-2 with their 2 losses being the Lions and the Bucs, both of them being competitive games. This is a team that just had a weird stretch last year for like 4 games, and it's that Derek Carr thing where he'll look like this for 2 weeks, and then in a month from now he can't find the broadside of a barn. But I'm thinking with Clint Kubiak at offense calling the plays, they've still got a really good team of players with Chris Olave at wide receiver. Alvin Kamara looks like he's 5 years younger. An offensive line that they've kind of rebuilt on the fly. Maybe we're going to look in 9 weeks and be like, you know what? That sucked that it was that bad, but we now know why Dallas lost to the Saints.
Yeah, I also think the Saints are for real, mainly because of what they're doing with their offense. And then, they added Willie Gay onto the defensive side. I know we're not going to really consider Chase Young. I kind of agree with that. After he got injured, he hasn't been the same player. To me, going into the season, the big issue with the Saints was 1, age, and 2, their patchwork offensive line. But through 2 games, again, I guess you have to throw out the Panther game against the Cowboys, who generally are considered having one of the better pass rushes in the NFL, they put him in check. They generate no pass rush. They took bad angles to tackle Kamara, or lack of tackling Kamara. Plays could develop for Carr to throw deep. Shaheed's starting to become a guy that people are starting to recognize as a Pro Bowler pretty soon. To me, when we were talking about, like when you brought up the 99 Rams, that's what this team reminds me of right now, because this is the team that kind of just came out of nowhere. through 2 games, and it's like, whoa, I didn't realize they were going to be this good. Now with the 99 Rams, you realize they were going to be a playoff team, maybe, because they added Trent Green, they added Marshall
when he
Faulk.
got hurt, everybody thought that they were going to, 1-15, maybe get a first round. It was kind of like everybody was looking at kind of like the Spurs with David Robinson, and he's hurt a year. Oh darn, we got the number 1 pick. What are we going to do with that? And then Kurt Warner comes out the gate, and just like those Rams, people forget what made those Rams Super Bowl was that underrated defense. I think the Saints defense. Look, Dallas at times moved the ball on them well, but they kind of did to Dallas what Dallas does to teams, and hey, we'll let you have 20-20, and then we're going to hold you to a field goal.
It's kind of what Jim Johnson was made famous for.
Yep.
Me, my generation, where you bend but don't break. They can go up and down the field, but don't let them score a touchdown. Hold them to a field goal. They might miss the field goal. Who knows? There's not many great kickers in the NFL, so you have better odds of them going for a field goal and missing than not. So, yeah. Their defense actually has always been pretty good the last few years. They're just getting older. But yeah, now that they have an offense to match that defense, now you're going to see a spotlight. Oh, they actually have – I bet there's going to be like 4 or 5 new Pro Bowlers from this defense that, they've never been Pro Bowlers before, but because now there's a spotlight on them, they're going to start getting recognized.
When you still got sitting there on the end, Jordan Cameron, he's not as explosive as he was. He was what we were talking about, like where DeMarcus Lawrence has turned into, and where Max Crosby's headed, where they're going to get you 8 sacks. There'll probably be sacks at key moments, but mainly he's setting the edge. He's making sure the lines are getting called, and all that kind of stuff. And again, as we get into this Sunday, it was a weird Sunday. It was a weird Sunday all around. It was Stranger Things. It was the upside down world. Almost every game in that noon. By the way, this was the busiest noon of the year, 10 games. And almost every game was completely not what you thought it was going to be. Even if the team that was favored ended up winning, it would be more of a struggle than you thought it would be. Well, let's just go ahead and get into it. And again, this is how we do on the show. I like how your news. Dallas got whipped. Young got benched. Tua got concussed. Let's go ahead and bounce back to that Thursday game. Buffalo, Miami. For whatever reason, Miami just can't beat Buffalo right now. I think this is now 8 straight times and like out of 13 or 12. I mean, it's a long stretch. But of course, the big news is Tua concussed. People are calling for him to retire. I kind of like what Mike McDaniel, look, that's up to him. As long as he's medically cleared, I'm not going to tell the guy he can't go out and earn money. But for me, I think the thing that's most disconcerting is, A, you barely got hit. And look, I know concussions can come out of nowhere. And B, you're the one that instigated the hit. I know people were making kind of the meme, oh my God, Hamlin, who almost died on the field, just killed Tua's career. He literally was just there. Tua trying to just look tough, put his head down, and stupidly ran right into him. And as soon as he fell, I'm like, shit. And then his hand started doing the same thing on the ground. That's what everybody knew the first time. Do you think he retires? I don't. I think he's still going to play.
He actually posted a comment or I guess he was interviewed recently. He said he doesn't plan on retiring. I do think he needs to take some time off because, like you said, he initiated the hit. It didn't seem like it was a big hit compared to the other concussions he's had. I always find it a little funny that it happened against Damar Hamlin for, the issue that – not issue, but like the injury he had a couple of years ago in the Monday night game.
We were doing a show that game.
Yeah, I remember doing the show, and I'm glad. Yeah, because the game got canceled.
Yeah, we ended up just kind of hanging out for about an hour afterwards, cut the show short, and ate food and got drunker.
Yep. So I'm glad he's back and healthy and starting. It's good for him.
Well, hang on. Right-wing social media claims that that's a clone, that Hamlin died because he had a heart attack because of the COVID shot, but the NFL put a clone in. They're still believing this because somebody was like, that's how you know. Before he had the heart attack, he was never going to be a starter. Now he is. he must be better. Well, no, he was always a bully solid player. Buffalo just had really good safeties, and then they lost them, one of them to the Miami Dolphins. And by the way, he was headhunting all game long. He had him against Miami. That was kind of against Buffalo. That was kind of weird. But I'm like you. I don't think Tua retires. I don't know what, other than him healing, I don't know what giving him time off does. He's not. I mean, is he going to change how he quarterbacks?
He's going to have to change how he quarterbacks, and he's going to have to look, take a hard look in the mirror, because he needs to change something. His offensive line is not as good as it was last year. Last year, he played a full season. This is going to be another repeat of 2 years ago, because he's going to have to miss some time while he heals up.
Do you think he's back this year?
Yeah, I think he'll be back this year. I don't even think it might be in 2 weeks, really. The Dolphins signed Pro Bowl quarterback.
I purposely left that in just so you could get a giggle. Look, I like Tyler Huntley. He was at UCLA. He seems like he's a fun dude. Like he's one of those guys that'll, as soon as he has to step into a huddle when he's back up, crack a joke. Spoke highly of him. The dude should not have been a Pro Bowl. I still contend him making the Pro Bowl is one reason why the NFL said, okay, we got to change this. That Pro Bowl doesn't mean anything anymore.
But they're jumping the shark.
And there you go. Fawn showed. Hey, in saying that, I like him with this team, because here's the deal, folks. The Dolphins offense, I'm not saying you can autopilot, because Skylar Thompson ain't going to autopilot, but a decent quarterback, because they're not, I mean, a lot of their stuff is predicated off of one read and go. They're not trying to, and I kind of wonder if they kick the tires on Ryan Tannehill, because man, actually Joe Flacco would be fun right here.
He's already with another team.
Yeah, the Colts. Maybe they'll cut him. Just cut him. They might be starting him. No, they're not.
After what I saw on Sunday in Green Bay, I mean, you might want to keep him on there just in case.
Anthony Richardson is going to be the most tantalizing quarterback. That is the most frustrating. And it's so funny, because he is where Josh Allen could be in. I could see a career where Josh Allen is Anthony Richardson, where he is going to make some plays that just absolutely wow y'all. Go look at that touchdown against the Texans where he flicks the wrist as he's off his back foot and it drops 65 yards later right in the basket. But then also go look last week when he throws a ball that Bryce Young said, hey, don't throw that.
You know what my problem is? Actually, for this game, I don't blame him necessarily. I blame
He actually played pretty decent.
I blame their head coach, Shane Steichen, more for this, because look what the Packers did when they lost Jordan Love. Malik Willis only threw it 14 times. They ran it 53 times. They were not hiding that they were going to run the ball. And they got 261 yards. That's how bad the Colts defense is. They knew they were going to run the ball, and they couldn't stop it. Meanwhile, on the Colts side, in a close game, Richardson throws it 34 times, and they only run it 18 times. But in the 18 carries, they still got 140 yards. Keep running the ball.
That's what I'm saying. Jonathan Taylor, 12 carries, 100 yards.
Yes.
12 carries, 100 yards. What the hell are you not having 22 carries? And the rest, man, what they did with Malik Willis is what I think people thought Malik Willis could be. Nobody ever thought he was going to be the guy that you throw the ball 60 times with. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers and put the ball in tight windows. What he is going to be is lethal on play action pass, quarterback boots, throw run options.
Go
ahead.
I was saying Malik Willis is replacing Jordan Love, who got hurt last week in Brazil. He'll be out a while, 3 to 6 weeks. Packers are hoping 3. The NFL is hoping 6. I was just making that note because I'm going to make a point later about quarterbacks in the NFL now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. It's a thing that's actually, I think a lot of people think it's just the first couple weeks thing, but you and I, we've been talking about this for a year and a half now. Defenses are starting to figure out offense. That's how this works. One side gets really good and they start putting up historic numbers, and then the other side starts figuring, going back to the 85 Bears. The 46 defense was figured out by 1988. It was actually figured out by Dan Marino in 1985. I still contend if Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins don't get upset in the playoffs, I don't know if the Bears win, because that wasn't a fluke. The whole point of that defense was predicated on getting to the quarterback before he can throw the ball. And I still remember to this day, this is the nerd I am. I used to watch the Tom Landry show. And after that infamous 1985 beatdown, where they got beat 44-0, the one thing Tom Landry showed on film was all those times that Danny White was getting absolutely destroyed, at least one Cowboy was almost always open. They just didn't have time to get the ball to him. And so the Dolphins showed that when you have a Dan Marino with the quickest release in football, you can beat them. So great defenses get figured out. Great offenses get figured out. We're now kind of in that era where great offenses are getting figured out unless you do unique things, which is what San Francisco does. The problem with San Francisco is injuries. Christian McCaffrey's on the IR. He's out for 4 games. Deebo Samuel has a strained calf. A strained calf is like the new high sprain. He's not going to be right the rest of the year. That's literally what happened to Dak 2 years ago. Everybody talked, he threw the most interceptions and all that, but he also had a strained calf. So I just, quarterback play. Let's go ahead and break into it now. Even like CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams, that was some ugly ass quarterback play last night. And by the way, good job by the Texans. That's the type of game they don't win last couple of years. They uglied that one out. As pretty as that offense is, you don't win playoff games unless you can win 19-13.
I'm starting to think the Bears defense is for real.
Yes, they look good.
Now, I know against the Titans is one thing, but against the Houston Texans with all that talent, even with the injured Joe Mixon, I still think it was a very impressive performance. And I think the Bears might have something there. I could see them making a second half run as Caleb Williams is starting to develop as a quarterback and starting to get more comfortable. I know Keenan Allen was kind of hurt in this game.
And fast.
And bigger.
Tight end, left tackle, Keenan Allen will miss the game. And I love Keenan Allen, dude. He's been so good to me in fantasy multiple years, because in that old school, back when they were San Diego and now the LA Chargers offense, he was the perfect in the second half. They're down by 3 touchdowns. He's going to get 8 catches, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, I think that, okay, let's keep this with the quarterback stuff. Caleb Williams is a rookie, folks. Not every rookie is going to do a CJ Stroud. Not every rookie is going to do that where they just immediately hit the ground and they just take off. And by the way, CJ Stroud didn't really do that either. It took him a couple games and then he started figuring it out. I think Caleb Williams is going to be perfectly fine. He doesn't look scared. He doesn't look unsure of himself. He just looks like a rookie who the game is still a little fast for.
Yeah, and if you look at his stats, you could tell he was sacked 7 times. He did throw it for over 100 yards, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, he ran it for 5 times, 44 yards.
It's like the Anthony Wright standard for the Cowboys back in the early 2000s. We threw for 100.
I think, and you know what? I really think, all joking aside, I really think second half this Bears offense is going to look completely different. And if they don't, with all that talent, Eberflus will be gone, because there's a lot of talent and money invested on that offensive side to where they're going to start needing some results. But I'm thinking those results are going to be in the second half of the year. I think they'll still struggle. I think their defense will carry them for most of the first half of this season. But yeah, I would say, being the fantasy guru that I am, I would start looking at some of those Chicago offensive weapons and start stashing them away if you have some space on your roster for them.
Well, and okay, so one thing they've got to do is run the ball, and they didn't yesterday. DeAndre Swift, 19 carries, 30 yards or something goofy like that, or not 9? Was it 9? Not 9.
No, actually, 14 carries, 18 yards.
Yeah, 14. I knew it was. I moved off the box score, and I moved off too early. Caleb Williams was the leading rusher for them, and that's fine. But I guess technically, that's last year. What the hell?
And honestly, both teams did a bad job of this. I think the offensive coordinator for the Texans is a guy named Slowick. He was up for head coaching jobs this season. My issue, both teams, it was a close game. Caleb Williams threw it 37 times. Stroud threw it 36 times. They both ran for it 22 times. That is, in a close game, there needs to be some type of, there needs to be more running, I would say, in a closer game like that. Because what you're seeing is not much effectiveness in the passing game.
Yeah, but I mean, some of that's Joe Mixon getting hurt too.
That is true. But they still had Cam Akers, and from what I was hearing coming out of training camp was Cam Akers looking great.
Well, and he was what? He averaged 4.6 yards, 7 carries, 32 yards. That's not bad. Joe Mixon, he gets hip drop, no call. He calls out the NFL, rightfully so. Again, this is that thing that players go, hey, okay, if we're making these rules about health, and look, calls are going to be missed. I understand that totally. But in my opinion, if you have rules for the safety of players, they should be reviewable. So if you have a hip drop rule, that should be a reviewable play if there's a hip drop tackle, because that was a hip drop tackle. They just missed the call, and that's fine. They miss horse collars all the time. That's going to happen. I get that. I'm fine with mistakes. Then let's just build it in where, okay, we didn't see that. Buzz, hey, y'all want to go check this out? Oh, let's go check this out. I'm also a big believer now. I know way back in the day it was weird that there wasn't an official there. I don't know why we need the head official to go over and look at plays now. Just have the dude in the booth do it. Because he's already ringing them, telling them, hey, you might want to look at this. I kind of like how hockey and baseball do it. I know hockey fans will be like, no, Toronto sucks. But it actually does help the game go by faster because they can do these reviews in real time. So you can be like, okay, wow, that was a hip drop, and they're lining up, and then you get the whistle. Boop, sorry, we're going to throw a flag. That was a hip drop. I'd rather that than, oh, hang on, we got to go look at it. Let's go through 2 commercials. Now let's come back. That's a way they can keep the game going, but that definitely was a miss. So I'll give the Texans a little bit of an excuse on that one. And also, they're going to have to get used to throwing the ball running the ball because last year they couldn't. And it's that muscle memory. I still think that's a lot what happened to Dallas yesterday. That looked like Dan Quinn's team when it came to discipline on run lanes. They were terrible. As great as Eric Kendrick, and he wasn't on the team last year, but as great as Eric Kendrick was in week 1, he was absolutely terrible on reading the run play. He was, unless he was on run blitzes, and if they were really delayed, he kept trying to get Kamara at that, what was in offense, it would be the 5 gap, because I'm thinking watching TV to the left. And on the defensive side, it'd be that C gap. He kept trying to get him to the C, and the pitch was going out to the outside. And he kept coming up under. I just feel that some of that's muscle memory. And so that's why maybe I give the Dallas defense a pass. That's why I give Houston run game a pass. But you're right. They've got to run the ball. That will make the passing game so much more lethal.
They need to figure out who they want to run because they have Cam Akers, but they also were trying to use Tank Dell a lot. They really have no faith in Dameon Pierce. Either that or he's injured and I'm not aware of it. But
I don't think he is really good catching the ball out of the backfield. Dameon Pierce has struggled running the ball, and I know this because, again, he was one of those guys when he was a rookie, he had a couple good games, and so he became that guy you always picked up on FanDuel. Oh, I need a running back. Oh, he's got good numbers, but he's real cheap. I can afford him in the budget of FanDuel. But then you started realizing he's kind of Trent Richardson. He doesn't really read the play well. Out of the backfield, though, he can really destroy teams. So maybe they use him like that. Supposedly Joe Mixon might miss a few weeks. It's a week-to-week thing. And with that kind of injury, it literally could be he wakes up Thursday and he's ready to go, or it might be 2-3 weeks.
I'm looking up Dameon Pierce, and it seems like he was listed as out, but I don't know why.
No, he was a healthy scratch.
Oh, that's even worse. Damn.
Yeah. I mean, he's not even. Well, I mean, think about it. You've got again in today's world, you've got Joe Mixon, Akers, and then they've got one other running back. That's usually you only carry 3. Usually 3, maybe 4 if you're like Dallas, or you're kind of doing we don't know what we're doing. He's going to have to figure it out. Now, in saying that, if he's not active going forward, then if I'm a team like the Dallas Cowboys, I'm calling and seeing what's it take to get him. Because, again, let's go back to Dallas. That's what we do. We bounce around. If you're going to do this whole run thing, I'm okay, fine. Then let's see Dalvin Cook. I mean, we know what Elliott is. Elliott can be fine for 10 carries, 3 catches. I'm fine with that. Perfectly fine with that. Let him get 600 to 800 yards, 7 TDs. I don't think anybody else that we saw yesterday can do anything. Fawn's a fun story. He's not a running back in this league. He cannot be a guy that you only use him for some trick stuff, use him out of the backfield to screens, but you're not going to hand the ball off to him 8 times and expect anything more than like 20 yards.
Yeah, unfortunately, size is a part of the problem, and he just I hate to say, he's just not big enough right now, and I don't think he ever gained enough muscle to where he'll be like a Darren Sproles in this league. They're
built different, man. Darren Sproles, I think I told you before, I saw him in person. Darren Sproles is a fire hydrant. I mean, his legs, and that's the thing. Everybody always asks me, like, how do you know, like, when a guy, because I cover high school football, how do you know when they're going to be good? It's the lower body first. I don't care about the upper body. That can be added. And you can add certain mass to legs, don't get me wrong, but you're born with squatty, big, thick trunks, or you're not. And go look at every great football player. No great football player other than Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch, and he was called Crazy Legs because he had fucking crazy legs. Seriously, though, 99.9% of great NFL players start with that play, other than quarterback, of course, starts with a lower body that is just holy crap. Like, wow.
Look at the body makeup of Tyreek Hill.
Yes, exactly. Great comparison. Short dude. Deshaun Jackson, short dude. Steve Smith, short dude. All of them wide bases. All of them fast because they've got muscles in their legs, but they're also quick. And Deuce is just not quick at the NFL level. He was quick at the college level. Dude, I saw him in the Big 12. He was a monster for what he did.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, well, then he'll do the same thing as Sproles. Sproles from Kansas State. They're just built different.
Yep.
And so, man, if you're Dallas, why are you not asking, hey, what's it take for Damon Pierce to come here? Dalvin Cook, ready to go. If you're going to do this, you've got to commit. And this goes back to why you and I are so confused by what Dallas is doing. Like, they were showing pictures of Jerry Jones, and he was not in any way like, okay, whatever. Oh, and the other thing was he wasn't drinking Johnny Walker Blue. I'm telling you, there's something up with him. He was drinking water. That's like when Grant Goodwin, my co-host of high school, drinks water. I'm worried. Like, do I need to call family? Like, is this you have your insurance papers on dude? Because he doesn't drink water. Jerry, I don't know. It is such a weird vibe with the Cowboys this year.
I have no idea of what this team is. And maybe partly it's because it's so early in the season. We won't truly know who this team is until maybe week 10.
Hey, we got one. Hang on. I'm sorry, I want to cut you off. A YouTube viewer, Champy, I like the name. He says, my Cardinals put the NFC on notice. Marvin Harrison Jr. out here looking like a young Randy Moss. 100% right. And I will say it again. It's lost in the game. The Cardinals, for one half last week against the Bills, looked freaking really good. They just couldn't sustain it. Now we've seen 2 games, 3 quarters of one game, or 2.5 quarters of one game, and then a full quarter or a full game against a really good Ram team. Again, they beat the donkey shit out of them. Dude, if this is the Cardinals we're getting, the NFC West might be back as one of the toughest conferences or divisions in football.
And again, I'll keep saying it again. It's still early in the season. This was an impressive performance. Hey, Marvin Harrison, he had 4 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He looked explosive. He looked big. He looked powerful. I loved it. But again, it's still too early to tell.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, dude. So on the night, Kyler Murray, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns. More importantly, James Conner, 21 carries, 122 yards, and a touchdown. And he had like a big screenplay or a tall sweep called back that was like a ton of yards as well. Mm-hmm. As you talked about, Marvin Harrison, 4 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. So all you dumbasses that said him after the week 1 fantasy, including me, Set him in 2 leagues, and I'm going to lose both of those leagues. I'm going to lose under 12 points. That hurts.
Ouch.
So, Champy, I don't know if they can consistently, like you say, it's early, and I think you could have a situation where you're going to get kind of a Jekyll and Hyde type. But look, they play the Commanders this week. I mean, that's a win. Washington looks terrible. I mean, I'm sorry. And we told people, and I'm not saying Jaden Daniels is going to be terrible, and I'm not even saying Dan Quinn is going to be terrible long run, but a lot of people started this whole, hey, Washington, they could be a dark horse. No, they're not. They've got to figure a lot more out than people realize. So, I mean, to me, the Cardinals are a favorite. Then they've got the Niners, the Packers, the Chargers, the Dolphins, the Bears. I mean, outside of the Niners, I think they're at least a pick 'em or could win in every one of those.
Even with the Niners, with all their injury issues, that's still a possibility. I mean, if they were able to go to Orchard Park and hang with the Bills for the whole game, who's to say they can't go and beat the 49ers?
Yeah, I mean, again,
sure did.
Yeah, and again, and it's it's not like in week 1, the Niners look good late, but I mean, and again, like you say, it's early. Dude, the 2-0s that become 6 and 10s are way more than people realize. I know there was always that, that was the whole big thing until 93 was no 0-2 team had went to a Super Bowl, and 0-2 used to be like, if you go 0-2, you might not make the playoffs. Now that's not true. I think I remember reading over the last 15 years, teams that go 0-2, like 42% still make the playoffs. So, I mean, we've got so much season. We haven't even got into what teams do well, really. But like in Arizona, I think they're legit. We talked about that in the preview show. Like, hey, everybody's talking about the Niners. They should. Everybody's talking about the Rams. They should. Everybody's even talking about Seattle. And you and I kept saying, look, man, if Kyler Murray figures it out, that Arizona roster is not bad. They've kind of rebuilt themselves really well on the fly with some really solid draft picks.
Yeah, and this was the year we were like, okay, they're all in because they traded a bunch of picks just to get a bunch of picks in 2024, assets and picks.
Smart.
They had over 10 picks in the 2024 draft, and you're seeing it all on the field. Marvin Harrison was a big one. The offensive line help and defensive help. So it's starting to gel. And through 2 games, just like with last year, through most of last year, the Cardinals hung with teams. They just didn't have the quarterback, a good, healthy quarterback for the whole season. They had Dobbs, who played way better than anyone thought he would have ever played. But now you have a healthy Kyler Murray, a motivated Kyler Murray, and a consistent James Conner with Trey Benson, his backup. And you had Trey McBride, a budding star at tight end. You got Buda Baker on the defensive side, a great safety, a great veteran.
Sorry.
Buda.
I love Buda Baker. I've always, even though the Cardinals and the Saints and the Lions at stretches, but the Cardinals and the Saints especially have always just been thorns in the Cowboys' sides. I've always liked the Cardinals for some reason. Even when they were in St. Louis. Well, I liked them partly because Pat Tilley, who was from Shreveport, which I grew up near Shreveport, I like them, and I've always liked the Cardinals except for the Buddy Ryan era. Nobody will ever understand, and it's funny because Buddy Ryan literally coached in my hometown. Way before me. Shut up. But I've never liked him. But I've always liked the Cardinals. I rooted for them in the Super Bowl when they lost. I rooted for them. Well, I rooted for them because I had Carson Palmer for a couple years on fantasy, and he led me to great heights. But I really want the Cardinals to be good. That is a town that when they're good, that fan base is fun. And you go back, I watched the thing behind the scenes thing about them the year that they went to the Super Bowl, and just like that whole fan base, like they were like us with the Texas Rangers. Like they never thought they would actually get there. And then just like 2011, it got kind of taken from them at the last moment. Great. Maybe the best Super Bowl.
And speaking of that great Super Bowl, I just started watching that Heel show. That was on Stars. That's now on Netflix. Now it's on Netflix as of last night. I didn't realize James Harrison, who had probably one of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history in the Super Bowl you just mentioned, the 100-yard pick six on Warner to end the half. He's in the show. So I didn't even know that. So it's a nice little surprise. I finished one episode. I like it. I'm going to keep watching it. Maybe we'll do a show reviewing.
Yeah, we're gonna do an off-season show that it's still on Stars. It's just the old seasons now are on Netflix as well. Speaking of, a real quick programming note, you're going to be in studio in October again. We're going to, of course, record a live happy hour. We promise we'll do better at watching the actual game than we did last time. So the problem last time is we might have started out drinking the coverage at 1 p.m. for a 7 p.m. kickoff. So we were a little gone.
You said we weren't going to drink until the game or to the show. And then we ended up, and you're like, oh, shots.
Well, I said that. And then I also said 30 minutes later, we're sitting here. But anyway, we'll watch the game more. But we're also going to tape a Vince McMahon episode of a Patreon Outdrink the Coverage / Bad Movies and a Drink, because he is on Netflix. If I still think it's going to be him making everything seem like he didn't do anything wrong, but supposedly he's bearing all in this documentary where he talks all the sexual harassment, how he screwed wrestlers, how he basically, did a lot of illegal things to take over different wrestling federations, all that stuff. So we're going to do a show on that. I'm actually looking forward to that.
And one side note is that Netflix is going to be airing WWE Raw starting in January of next year, which is huge. They've never done this before, where they'll do a live show every week of wrestling. And I think this is good for the business, but it worries me for this documentary, because even though McMahon is not involved with the company anymore, I feel it might be a slanted documentary.
Well, and that's kind of what I think. It's going to be him defending himself and them like giving proof of why he wasn't, it wasn't really that, but you know what I mean.
And I will make sure if anything seems fishy, I will definitely do my research just to verify. I followed his career ever since I was a teenager, so a lot of stuff I do remember, but I want to make sure that Netflix is very unbiased with this, because that is my only concern. I'm looking forward to watching it, but like I said, my one concern is they're not going to be. I think they're going to be slanted. I think they're going to be generous to the WWE, because they're going to be taking on this business that they're hoping is going to generate billions of dollars for them.
Yeah, that again, we'll see, but we'll have a show about it no matter what. In fact, that comes out next weekend, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it like
the 25th?
Yeah, 25th. So 8-9 days from now.
Yep.
So be watching that so that you can be ready to do that with us. NFL, the game tonight, Eagles in Philadelphia, they're about to start. So we'll get into that here in a minute. I want to go to best uniform games, because this was by far one of the best uniform weekends of all time. So much so that I nitpicked the Saints Cowboys, because I don't like it when they have the all black, because it looks pajamas. If the Saints would have wore the gold, I would have, but so much so that good look isn't even in the top 10. Dude, Indianapolis, Green Bay. Oh my gosh. There is something about when you're either in Green Bay, in Washington, and it's a noon game and it's sunny before it gets like really cold, the uniforms just pop. And I can't believe you didn't have it on the list. To me, the best look of all weekend. Well, I don't know, man. Miami wearing those classics almost puts them at number one.
They were my number one.
Well, if Buffalo would have went with the all white look, I would have agreed. I don't hate the white. I don't hate the blue pants. They look perfectly fine. But I'm just saying the all white just looks great.
It does.
Commanders and Giants. Dude, that looked like old school Washington. Red top, yellow pants, red helmet. If you didn't know, it looked like the Washington Beepskins. That was a beautiful game, dude. But man, Green Bay, Indy, beautiful game. Titans, dude, the Titans figured it out when they're wearing the whites. Just go all white. That blue helmet looks so good. And you and I have talked about before. Again, if you can't see the whole wall, we have every NFL team. Some of them we have the current, some of them we have the throwback. We have the current for the Titans. And that helmet in person is phenomenal. The Titans helmet in person, I see why they went with it. It doesn't always work. Oh, my cat's I don't know if you saw my camera. My cat's under the camera right now. But that helmet looks great in person, and with the all whites underneath it. I'll tell you this: I didn't realize the Lions went with the blue face mask. That looks good again. They had been doing the silver for the last few years.
So their look now looks more like their '90s and before look that I liked a lot. It looks similar. It's not exactly, but the Lions looks way better. So I probably won't be putting them on the worst uniform list going forward because I do like what they've done.
Yeah.
And of course, like you brought the Titans Jets, man. That is the Jets going back to their older look, the 80s and 90s look. That looks great. I love it.
Did we not call that 1,000% last year? Because people forget last year's when they came out with all the 500 different looks. And we were like, okay, we knew they were going to have to go retro. They have two great looks. They have the white helmet look from the 60s and then the 2000s. Looks great. And we were like, the 80s looks great too. If they will just stick with those two, they'll be perfectly fine. Boom, they come out this year and say, yeah, we might throw one or two black helmet jersey games, but for the most part, we're going to ride with the green and more importantly, the white pants. My God, I thought Richard Todd was out there with Al Toon. By the way, we did him last week. I thought they were out there at one point. That just looks so good. San Francisco, Minnesota, man. Minnesota's finally got the top in the shirt, right? And so it looks wonderful. And I know people miss the Metrodome, but I love them out in the Minnesota sun in September. Now, they're not going to like it when it's 35-mile-an-hour wind here in about 2 months, but that looked good. Look, Seattle, New England, terrible. Y'all stop. Just stop it. New England's not really terrible. It's just boring. Seattle, I never liked the change, and I really don't now. It just looks like the 2000s.
Their week one looks so good because it was their classic look.
Their classic. I wonder if the Falcons are going classic tonight. Actually, we might see them. That is the one thing I really wish teams would do a better job of is coordinating the looks. Because, dude, it would have looked really good. Because I know Buffalo's bringing the red helmet back for a game. That would have been awesome for that game with the Dolphins. Dolphins in their own look, like it would look really good. Like, and I really wish that, that they would coordinate better like that. Cause it looks weird when one of the teams has their old great look and then the other teams kind of have their other. So now let's go. I'm looking now for the first time your bad uniform games. Wait, where's that at? Oh, it's at the bottom.
It's worse uniform. Yeah, it's only two teams, really. The Seahawk Patriot one and then the Charger Panther. And it's because it just looked bland on TV, even though I love the
I don't like the Houston look. I do not like I go back to the other look. The blue just looks almost black. It almost looks like Chicago.
It also looks like the Falcons.
Well, yeah, and the Falcons. My old roommate messaged me. He said it looked like an intra-squad scrimmage between Chicago offense and Chicago defense at times. I don't like Denver's look because it literally looks the same. Them in Houston have the exact same blue look now.
Why would they go with that as a home outfit? Because they let the Pittsburgh Steelers, and half the stadium was probably Steeler fans in Denver. They're wearing their traditional black jerseys. It's like it just looked like a home game for them.
Well, more and more team like Dallas now rolls out one cowboy blue uniform game. More and more teams, and some teams have always said, Washington, it all depended on what time of the year it was.
Yeah.
It was in Miami too. Miami used to wear their whites at home the first couple of weeks of the year. It was hotter, it was more humid. The idea is the team in the darker uniforms are going to struggle. So I get that, but and when they wear their color rush, like I like the D and the horse. But go back to the old blue, man. That dark blue is not good. I'm trying to think of other ones.
They keep trying different outfits, and it's just not working. Just go back to the traditional. I know it's a business marketing thing where let's get new jerseys out there. Let's go get people to buy. People will buy jerseys if they have players they like.
Or you're winning.
Or if you're winning, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we've seen some teams with some ugly looks and they win and people buy their jersey. I will say I don't know if you have the Chargers and the Panthers as a bad uniform game.
I like those jerseys fine. Both
just not didn't look good on the field together.
In a day game, it just looked bland. I don't know. So nothing was.
Sorry, let me cut you off. But by the way, that if you're new to this, that's always been part of our point. It's not about just the two teams separately, how they look. Does it look good on the field together? And sometimes, going back to the Cowboy Saints, sometimes those colors kind of don't look good together. Like I really prefer it more when you get the Cowboy blue with the Saints white, and we've only done it like a couple of times. I really do wish the Saints would go back to the gold pants. I just don't like I don't really like all of one color past high school. Usually, sometimes it can be pulled off, for a moment. But if they'd have gone with the gold pants, I think it'll look good. But yeah, it's not always just how they two look, because I still think the Panthers have a pretty good look. It's kind of stale, but all they need to do is just mix in the blues and the black tops more. Just alternate those a few times a year, and they'll be perfectly happy.
Their color scheme is fine to me, but for some reason, just in a day game, I almost feel like maybe they should have just wore all white, maybe, or like their black jersey, maybe. It just didn't look right to me. I don't know.
No, I totally agree. All right, so let's now and we'll work in the rest of the games as the game's about to kick off. We got a good crowd, so we'll keep going. Tell me, you're on the run sheet.
How many people are watching?
6,000 right now.
Oh, nice. So hello, everybody.
We appreciate Champion. We hope you keep listening. So tell me, what did you put on the run sheet? You want to talk quarterbacks. What do you want to talk about with quarterbacks?
So here's my issue with quarterbacks right now. And I know market value says you have to pay them this much if they're a certain level of excellence. But is it even worth it? I mean, we're in week 2 of the season. Jordan Love just got paid a ton of money. Tua Tagovailoa just got paid a ton of money. Trevor Lawrence got paid a ton of money. Dak got paid a ton of money. Daniel Jones got paid a ton of money last year for him. It was like 4 years, 160. Kirk Cousins got, 4 years, 180 or something like that?
Yes.
What are you getting out of it? And I know market value says you have to pay them a certain amount, but you're not winning or you're not playing. Your offense is not playing to that level. Like you're paying a game manager almost $200 million. Why?
Well, because we live in this world right now where you and I, since the Super Bowl, and look, my dad's listening. If it was before the Super Bowl, but it feels like the Super Bowl became that defining point of quarterbacks get so valued for if they win, overvalued. You literally hear the things about Tony Romo and Dak. Well, Tony Romo would be a playoff quarterback or a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he didn't win enough in the postseason. Why does that matter? Like, one of the things I think baseball gets right is it's about what you do in the regular season, because that's where you play 90% of your games. But in the NFL, and I think part of it's because Bart Starr, Terry Bradshaw were two guys who won 6 Super Bowls between them, and they were good at times, but they weren't always great. But they had such really good teams around them that people had to figure out how to value them. And so instead of valuing them as, hey, they're really good teams, they're part of a machine. Oh, no, it's because they're gritty and gutty, and Bart Starr might not throw for 300, but he'll lead the team to victory. And that's fine. But the problem is we've carried that. So now, like you say, you get a game manager and you're going to go, well, we got to pay him. Daniel Jones, 1 playoff year. Hey, good job beating up Minnesota. That's awesome. Good job. That gets you $100 million now? I mean, like, just really, should it? So this is why I've said this. I don't want them to win over Dallas, but man, I really wish San Francisco would not pay Brock Purdy, but win and then be like, okay, we're going to go do with another quarterback because we're not going to pay him $100 million.
That to me should be the next trend in football. You're not going to be able to win like this. Like the Chiefs proved it last year. They built a great defense for Patrick Mahomes, who in his part, because to me, he is a Hall of Famer, for one of the many reasons is he took a pay cut for him. He deserves way more money than he's actually making. He took a pay cut so they could pay more, pay some other positions more money.
Okay, so he didn't take a pay cut. He went with sign me for 8 years. I'm fine. We'll restructure. Yeah. So I mean, he took a pay cut in years, and we had this discussion last week with Dak. Like, I am 100% fine with Dak getting what he got paid. I don't want anybody to think that I'm one of those that believe that quarterbacks should be paid less while owners make billions. I'm saying, hey, Dak, you've already got $100 million. You've already got, as you and I jokingly say, fuck the world money. You couldn't be like, hey, instead of me paying me $60 million now, pay me $35 million. Let's take that other $30 million and let's get a Derrick Henry. Let's rebuild the offensive line on the fly. Let's get another lineman that, and again, I'm not knocking Dak for wanting his money, but then don't also tell me, Dak Prescott, that all you want to do is win. Because no.
Agree. 100% agree.
You're purposely hamstrunging your team so you can say you're the highest paid quarterback. And again, he has all that right to do that. Capitalism, baby. I have all that right to say, did you really need that much? Like, you couldn't have gone for 4 years, $30 million for $120 million. That's another $100 million added to the $100 million you've already made on top of the rookie deal that once, people don't understand when they'll say somebody's like, well, they're on a rookie deal. Yes, but they get bonuses by the NFL that don't count against the cap. And Dak, because of how great he was to start his career, was making like $8 million a year with the NFL bonus slot salary. That's one of the funnest articles that come out. It's usually March when they tell you whoever, so and so, he went from $100,000 a year, but because he had an All Pro year, he's now, he made $10 million flat bonus. So it's going to take another Tom. Well, I guess it didn't work with Tom Brady. We'll see what Brock Purdy does. Does Brock Purdy ask for $60 million, or does Brock Purdy ask for $30 million?
I don't know his mindset. I don't know his mentality. And it's probably easy for me to say it being in my shoes, because I'm more of it's for the love of the game. I do it. I do it for free. I love football. I would take a pay cut if I was that good, just so I could build a team around me that could compete for championships. With the Cowboys, there's a bigger issue. So outside of the Cowboys, I'm thinking like 49ers. They've proven that you don't have to pay a quarterback a lot of money in order to win. And just keep doing that model. Just keep building a quarterback for the future. Maybe one day you'll strike it rich with a quarterback that cares about winning only, and you can pay them $20 million, which is a lot of money even in San Francisco. So, hey, the inflation has made San Francisco really like uninhabitable for people that have great degrees and they have a great job, make $250,000 and they can't even live in the city.
Yeah, no, you're right. And again, I have, if Dak Prescott says, I'm here to get paid, okay, just don't in the same breath tell me you're just here to win. You're
100%
here to win if you're taking the max deal as a quarterback. Now, what's going to happen though? We would like to pretend that, hey, they'll figure it out and say, hey, let's just start running with rookies and develop them, and in 5 years kick them out and let's do it again. What's going to happen is these owners are going to put a quarterback only cap, or a Larry Bird right, where you can sign these quarterbacks to whatever you want and it not hurt you as bad. And I'm fine with that as well. I'm perfect. I mean, that's really probably the best way to do it. But they're going to do that because this is the funniest thing about owners. Whenever they're in strike years and they talk about we need a salary cap, the reason they need a salary cap is they can't help themselves. They literally are putting in rules on themselves because they understand out of 32 owners, there's going to be 5 of them that are going to be like, what? Screw that. Just like and again,
2010.
Yeah, you know exactly where I'm going. Go look at the 8-8s from Dallas and go realize, and everybody would say, man, they're 2 players away from legitimately being a playoff team, a Super Bowl team. They got screwed because even though the year was uncapped by the agreement with the NFLPA, even though the league could in no way enforce don't pay, that's colluding. Dallas and Washington got hit with huge, like really shitty cap penalties. And the only reason I think that Dallas especially didn't sue is because Jerry's one of those that understands that You get good things, you get bad things. You just can't. You're going to get screwed sometimes. But they legitimately got screwed. Them and Washington. Washington was starting to figure things out as a franchise and give both of them credit. Oh, there's no cap? Okay, well, we're going to sign some of these young guys to long-term deals. We're going to put all the bonus money in this uncapped year. We're going to absorb it, and we're going to go on. And then the league, being petulant, hit them with really bad cap penalties.
Petulant. I like that.
Falcons are in there all white. They look good. Eagles are just in their standard. And look, the Eagles look is fine. I just never understood the need to go away from the forest green look or the Kelly green look. Sorry, it's forest green.
Money. Even in '97 is money.
Oh yeah, well, Jeffrey Lurie always said he was not a fan of those. That's the thing with New England. People always talk about the red. Bob Kraft doesn't like the red uniforms. Speaking of being a little bitch. What's up with Robert Kraft being all mad that he can't get in the Hall of Fame and then just directly taking shots at Jerry Jones? This is the funny thing, though. Like we'll talk about this. This will generate views and clicks between us and other parties that do shows. And Robert Kraft is texting Jerry Jones. Wait till you see what I said about you, asshole. You know they're having fun with it, but I don't think Robert Kraft is wrong. He belongs 100% in the Hall of Fame. Owner of I think we can all admit Patriots' greatest franchise dynasty in the history of sports, maybe.
In sports, you kind of have to I don't think the Canadians and Yankees will agree with you on that one, and I wouldn't agree either. And the Celtics,
they're up there. They're in the discussion. You're
not modern. Maybe.
Oh, yeah, by easy. Well, no, not even maybe. That's easy. 17-year run, 8 Super Bowls, win 6 of them, lose 2 of them.
I think based off of that modern dynasty, I would agree for sure.
And I still think you can hold them into the top of the old ones too. And again, the Celtics. And here's why: even with a salary cap, a lot of people you don't discredit, but the Celtics doesn't get as much glory because you go, well, it was like a 18-team league, and like you were playing George McKayan for all people, And I know he's a Hall of Fame basketball player. I'm not, but I'm just being honest. I think they get that knock. Now, baseball Yankees in the 50s and 60s, they don't get that knock because that was a really good era of baseball. So I think that's earned. But I think the Patriots, what you call it, 2001 to 2019, I think that goes up there. And you and I have talked about the frustrating thing is if that's the Cowboys in the 70s, if the Cowboys just win 2 Super Bowls, if they just beat even the Colts, you don't even have to beat the Steelers twice. Beat the Steelers once, beat the Colts once, and you've got 5 Super Bowls in the 70s alone. Think about that. That's how good. And they were even doing what the Patriots weren't. Dallas was basically going outside of 75 and 79. Dallas was basically going to the NFC Championship game every year.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were – I mean, this was a great team. The whole decade for the Cowboys, they really should have been America's – I mean, they should have really been the team of the 70s. Just a blunder against the Colts, and then one like that first Super Bowl against the Steelers, they probably should have won too.
Yeah, everybody always remembers the 35-31 one, and of course the Jackie Smith. People forget Dallas actually got down 2 scores in that. They come back and onside kick and all that. It's the first one that they lost 21-17. That's the one that I feel like, and I've gone back and watched both those games, over the whole game. That's the one. Well, I say that, man, that first half, man, Dallas in that second Super Bowl ran up and down the field against the Steelers in that first Super Bowl or that second Super Bowl. But anyway, going to the Patriots, what's impressive to me about the Patriots is outside of the quarterback and the head coach, everything else was different from the beginning of that to where they ended up, to where you basically were winning games with Adam Vinatieri and a defense, and you're just asking Tom Brady not to fuck up, to where you're putting the game on Tom Brady's shoulder and saying, well, same thing, don't fuck up, but also go score us 40 points. We need that.
Yeah. The Patriots figured out how to do it in the salary cap era, and that was the most impressive part. But then Belichick had this propensity to start players that were wide receivers, but they also could play cornerback, or they were quarterbacks in college. but now they're a slot receiver. But for wide receiver screens that turn into 50-yard bombs by Julian Edelman to insert random wide receiver 3.
Hey, guess what helped their dynasty as well? Tom Brady took less money.
That's very true.
Now, he always says jokingly, and I think there is part of this, his lifetime made billions of dollars. He didn't need, he was perfectly happy with what he was making, but also he didn't have that need to be, I'm the highest paid. I'm the high. Look, I don't. The worst thing that ever happened in sports, and I can't remember if this was 86 or it might have been the 82. It might have been the 87 strike or the 82 strike. But you used to not know what players made. Like that was just not said. And then the owners, knowing what would happen if they did this, got it to where basically court said, hey, if the league wants to announce what players make, you can announce it. And that got the agents all excited because now the agents can be like, hey, I've got the 5 highest played players. And so, hey, you come with me and all that. But at the end of the day, that's the worst thing that happened because players care about. That's just a weird thing to me to care about.
No, because you want to know, because like money is a sign with your worth.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Not to you and me per se, but that's why people don't talk about money or politics or religion in public. It's a very private thing. It's a lot of people assign, especially with as much as we love America, it's a very materialistic country.
America.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's people just, if you make $100,000, but your friend makes 125, some people, they think this person's better than them because they make 25 grand more.
Yeah.
You and I don't think that, but there's a lot of people that do.
Hey, if somebody makes $25,000 more than me and we're hanging out, that just tells me I know who's buying my dinner and drinks. I'll be a whore.
You think very positively here.
It's the same thing with the whole like what a man makes in a relationship over what a woman makes, and how dare you make more than me? And then some women are like, how dare I make more than you? And it's like, doctor, I lay concrete. Go make your mind. I just never understood that. And again, I come from a not rich home, but I came from a home that I lived comfortably as a child. I didn't ever have to worry about where food was coming from or anything like that. I didn't always get what I wanted at Christmas, but I got enough to know that I wasn't going to have to, poison my parents the next day because they did just enough. Even though I never got the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier, I'm not saying I'm bitter. I'm just saying y'all might get rocks for Christmas.
As your dad is probably listening to this comment right now.
30. He's like, huh? Rangers, Super Bowl, World Series, what? No, but yeah, I just like, God, dude. I go back to it. I know we'll probably say this a bunch over the next 4 years. I am happy that Dak Prescott is a Cowboy. I genuinely like Prescott as the Cowboy quarterback for the Cowboys. I think he can win a World Series. That'd be awesome. I think he can win a Super Bowl. I think he can be everything that he's been, and I still think he has great years ahead of him. But dude, you couldn't have taken 40 million. Even 50 million. Just this whole need to be, I am the top paid quarterback, and it's not going to last because, like you said, some other bus driver is going to come up doing the team's going to be afraid to lose him, and they're going to sign him for 65 million.
Yep.
It's just frustrating.
Yep.
All right. Right now, the Eagles and the Falcons are 0-0. I'm trying over the other things. Okay, let's talk about surprising 0-2 teams. Ravens, Jags, and Bengals. Bengals are really not surprising. This is what the Bengals do. And also they play, they didn't play a tough team in week 1. Well, you know what? New England gave Seattle everything they could handle on the road, so give New England credit for that. But the Bengals just seem to struggle to start the season. The Jags, but mainly the Ravens. And it's not that they lost in week 1. It's that they lost at home to the Raiders. And for 90% of that game, the Ravens dominated. They just couldn't put the Raiders away.
Yeah, this has been a trend for the Ravens lately. You know, John Harbaugh as the head coach, they've given up double-digit leads late in games. Uh, yeah, I remember the game last year against the Colts. Yeah, same quarterback, Gardner Minshew. Yeah, people don't forget, like he was the backup quarterback for the Colts last year, and he led a huge upset with the Colts going into Baltimore, beating the Ravens.
Yeah.
The old Baltimore team beating the new Baltimore team.
Yep.
So he did it again, just with the Raiders. They're looking more like the Renegade Raiders. Just these reclamation projects coming here, in which I remember Doug Williams famously saying he wanted to go to the Raiders.
Yep.
Back in the late '80s, but he ended up staying with the Redskins, and he ended up becoming a Super Bowl MVP. So
yeah, in fact, Joe Gibbs famously, I don't know if Doug Williams' agent had put the trade together or back channels. It was basically the Raiders saying, "Hey, if Washington will trade you, we'll take you." And so he goes to Joe Gibbs, and Joe Gibbs famously, like Doug Williams is in his office and says, "Hey, I want to be traded, blah blah." And famously, Joe Gibbs said, "No." And I'll tell you what, you're going to hate me now, but by the end of the year, you're going to appreciate the fact that I didn't trade you.
Mm-hmm.
And literally that same year is when the Super Bowl, and they won the Super Bowl. Now, in saying that, ask Doug Williams, would he rather had 5 years as a starter for the Raiders, and they were good enough to maybe make a Super Bowl, or that 1 year thing, and then you kind of went back into the heap of you were banged up or just was inconsistent and all that? Because everybody always gives Joe Gibbs all the credit for winning Super Bowl with 3 quarterbacks, and he deserves that. But part of the reason was he couldn't stick with the guy. As soon as he got hurt, it was like he was out to Joe Gibbs. Like Joe Gibbs still had that mentality of if you get hurt as a quarterback, then maybe you're not a lead quarterback.
Well, I think Joe Theismann kind of triggered him or scared him to go to that mindset because
a snap decision.
Yeah, snap decision. I mean, when Taylor broke his leg in '85, I think Joe Gibbs just didn't know what to do. Like he hadn't been in the situation before. His first head coaching job was with Washington in '81, so he goes 4 years without having any issues, and then Theismann has to retire. So luckily, he had Jay Schroeder available the next year.
Yep. The crazy thing about Joe Gibbs is he came to Washington for his passing acumen. He was under the Coryell system with the Chargers, and so he came to throw. Washington didn't want that George Allen run the ball 40 times, don't throw enough. They felt that, and rightfully so, because they did it different. Joe Theismann was underutilized in the late 70s with Washington. And so Gibbs was brought in to do that, and then they tried that to start the year. Trying to see what happened here. Looks like Atlanta or Philadelphia went for it on 4th down and goal and did not get it. Atlanta holds. We're still scoreless.
I am shocked by this.
Well,
but you know what though? Like I liked everything Atlanta did in the offseason. Even though Kirk Cousins, hey, good for him, man. He's been getting $100 million deals after $100 million deals. But I really love them getting Matthew Judon. I love them getting Justin Simmons. That really solidifies the defense. They already had a top 10 offensive line. They had Bijan in the backfield. They've added a wide receiver 2 and 3 to complement Drake London. I like this team. I didn't like them getting Penix in the draft, but I like this team overall.
And again, we go back to maybe the Bears' performance. I mean, the Steelers' performance of Falcons. That's just how the Steelers are playing. Because, I mean, they literally won against Denver the exact same way. God bless it. Mike Tomlin is going to win with a winning record. And then they're going to get the doors beat off of them in the first round because this is not a good team. It's an okay team that knows how to win ugly. But usually those teams in the playoffs, the ugly winning teams and the high-flying teams both do the same thing in the playoffs. They crater because you can't sustain that in a game. The way you win a playoff game is you have to do the things you struggled with in the regular season good because a playoff team will know how to eliminate everything that you do good. And the Steelers, I can see it now, man. They're going to be 10-7. And they're going to be absolutely ugly. And then they're going to get a first-round game to, like, Kansas City and then get beat 42-10 or something like that. It's just, and you're going to get the same questions about I mean, I like Tomlin, but at some point they've got to do something different, right?
This feels like their ceiling right now. 10-7, first round exit. But yeah, if they want to win another Super Bowl, Tomlin's going to have to deliver this year, aka get to the conference championship game, show some type of promise, develop a quarterback. Like, he inherited Roethlisberger, and he was able to win ugly with Roethlisberger because when push comes to shove, Roethlisberger will make that move to evade the guy that's about to sack him and make the throw that's needed. So
he was able to 350 when needed.
Yeah, he could throw for 350 and 5 touchdowns when needed.
Yeah. And then he could also go 14 of 16 for 175 yards and let and Big Ben, for all the knock about whatever that happened in Georgia with all that, he was really like, he's the kind of style quarterback that we're talking about we want to see. The guy that's perfectly happy throwing for 175 and 2 touchdowns as long as we win. I don't need to throw for 300. So let's go ahead and get into your conversation. We started it, but let's finish this show. We still got 5,000 people. Let's finish this show on an extended talk about quarterback play right now in general. Not only the guys, the big money guys, but that's where we're going to start. You had on the show notes right now, at least to start the season. And again, season's long. The big money quarterbacks, for the most part, are either hurt or not performing well.
Yeah, and these are guys that just got paid. I forgot to put Joe Burrow on there.
Like Tuesday, they got paid.
Yeah, like Dak, and through 2 games, meh.
Yeah, okay.
Trevor Lawrence, not even good. Daniel Jones, no.
Well, we all knew that Daniel Jones was desperation by the Giants. Look, give that dude credit. He had his best season he could have when he needed it.
And it wasn't even that good.
No, it wasn't. But it was like 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He ran for 500 yards. It was some solid numbers. And so what were the Giants going to do? You not only made if they would have lost to Minnesota, you can still get rid of him. Hey, it's great you got us to the playoffs, but look, Minnesota kind of showed us, we're going to move on. They freaking beat Minnesota. And then for a half against the Eagles, they didn't look terrible. The Eagles ended up stretching it out on them. So I get why the Giants, and to be fair, that's not that bad of a deal now. It was $140 million. So, I mean, it's not that bad. But my God, the Giants look worse than they did. I mean, all the jokes about McAdoo, I'm still going, why did they fire McAdoo? He had a good season with Eli. He tried to sit Eli, which was the right thing to do. And then he had a bad season and everybody got rid of him. Yet Brian DeBall's still getting chances. I think if the Giants hit 0-4, I think DeBall might be fired.
Yeah, you had talked about that to me last week. I think by whatever their bye week is, I think that would make that move if they're not improving at all. They looked better yesterday, but it was only because they played Washington, whose defense is still not up to par, even with the Dan Quinn as the head coach, even with all the defensive additions they've made. That defense is still not good. And
so the Giants have the Browns this week, and the Browns, didn't look great yesterday, but they got a key win against the Jaguars. And it reminds you, and I know that Dallas game, but it reminds you that the Browns are one of those teams that have a roster good enough that if the quarterback just doesn't get in their way, they're going to win games. That was I say this all the time on sideline to sideline. The way they beat the Jags yesterday was what I call a professional win. It wasn't pretty. There was nothing beautiful about it. It was ugly as hell. You don't bet on it. You don't have any fantasy football players in it, but they got the win.
There is a quarterback that's available right now that would fit perfectly with this team, and his name is Ryan Tannehill. For all the talk about him going back to Miami, where he got drafted, I think this Cleveland Brown team is a better version of the Tennessee team he went to many years ago.
And he took them to an AFC title game.
And this team has a better defense, great running game once Nick Chubb gets back. They just need someone that can get the ball to Cooper and Elijah Moore.
Who is their backup?
who I don't. Oh God. Oh, I know where you're about to go. Go ahead.
No. I actually, honestly, mind fart. Jameis Winston. I say that.
Yeah.
I said before. I think Jameis Winston's the starter before the year is over.
And I actually think he's the right quarterback for this team.
Because look what Joe Flacco showed last year is when you have a talented roster, you can have a quarterback that can throw for 303 touchdowns or throw for 303 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, and you're going to still be okay.
Joe Flacco was great for the Browns last year, but he wasn't perfect. He had some bad games, but the fact that he would risk it and make those throws, knowing full well his defense has his back, that's the quarterback they need.
No, I totally agree. I think I think the issue that Deshaun Watson has is he's lost all confidence. He's trying to make the perfect play. He's not letting the game come to him. And you know, everybody says that, man, when you're in the league, period, of course. But when you're a quarterback, you can't think. You got to be able to react on the year. You know, he had a solid game yesterday. He threw for a touchdown. He threw for 200 and something yards. But you know, that wide receiving core is way too good to not be racking up yards.
Yeah, and even without Nick Chubb, they have a formidable running game. They have a good offensive line.
I would take Jerome Ford on the Cowboys right now. Give him 25 carries a game, and I'd be extremely happy.
You know, it's funny. This reminds me of you and I used to joke about, Dallas about to get a point guard. Any point guard is fine. Please, just any point guard. We're like the Rangers. Yeah. We're like the Rangers for years needed a center fielder. Yeah. Any center fielder. Is Darrell Hamilton available? I know he's 60 years old, but is he available?
Oh, God, you're so right, dude. And then we wanted Deron Williams, and then we got him like 8 years later, and it was the bastardized like.
He was from here. I wanted him and Chris Bosh on the same team, but, you know, Bosh got hurt. And then, Darren Williams, he was just too old.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right, though. And that's, you know, anyway, but like, you know, the question you have to ask is Amari Cooper, man, 5 catches, 17 yards in 2 games. You know, we always talk about running backs and they fall off a cliff. So do wide receivers. And folks, Amari Cooper's been in the league for a while now. I mean, we're talking what it was 5 years ago when he got traded to the Cowboys. Well, it was about this time, actually.
Look, that game that C.J. Stroud didn't play for Houston in the regular season when they played the Browns, and then Cooper went off, that was just a few months ago.
Yep. Oh, yeah, good point.
10 months ago. He has not fallen off since then. I think it's mostly quarterback play. Cooper's only like 30. He still has years to go. He still has mileage. I think he's going to be a really good receiver going into his 35th year on this earth.
Oh, I thought you meant in the league. I'm like, that's a record.
I mean, that'd be a great return on your investment if he was playing for 35 years. But no, I really think he's still wide receiver number 1. I think he just need that. He's the gunslinger quarterback like a Flacco the Browns need to do what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. They need to go ahead and cut that cord because this Deshaun Watson is not the Deshaun Watson they traded all those assets for 3 years ago.
And supposedly now, if you know, hours after that performance last week against the Cowboys, all of a sudden news came out about another lawsuit against Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
And apparently whenever that person's claiming it happened would be inside the Cleveland contract. And so Cleveland then could look to, I don't know how true that is, because if that's true, I don't think you're starting him. Like if you're really thinking, okay, we're going to use this to get rid of Deshaun Watson, why are you starting him? You would go ahead and put Winston in or anybody. Go pick up Ryan Tannehill. Call the Colts and see if they'd give you Joe Flacco back. Whatever you would want to do. Hell, go with Dorian Thompson-Johnson. You know, he's on the roster. You forgot about him.
Former UCLA quarterback.
And a lot of people say that if you just give him a chance, you know, he could be special. So I don't know how much I believe that the Browns are behind it. But I don't think they're looking for too many excuses. Now, they've gotten a big break because in the AFC North, we're two of the teams you thought were going to be fighting for it have started out so slow. Going back to the the Bengals and the Ravens. So let's go ahead and wrap around to the Cowboys and the Ravens.
I have an update.
What?
AJ Brown expects to miss multiple weeks due to his hamstring injury.
Oh, so I was wondering why I hadn't seen him on the field. So did he get hurt early in this game, or was this
earlier in the week? Yeah, earlier in the week he was questionable.
Yes, I do remember that now. It's weird, man. Like my fantasy sucks right now, but my fantasy always sucks for a couple weeks. I don't know why. You think I would be better prepared, but it takes me a couple weeks to kind of get into the rhythm football season is with the fantasy football stuff. But what were we talking about?
We don't know what this league is gonna. We don't know what the 2024 season is gonna entail for everybody. It's still early.
It's way early, and especially now because all sports have figured out that it doesn't matter how you start, tread water, and then close out strong. I mean, Bill Parcells and Jimmy Johnson were always saying that. Jimmy Johnson always said, "I'll take losses in September if you give me all the wins in December," because he knew that's when you start. Look, we all wish everyone. We all play Madden in college games, and we're like, "Well, Madden, Dak Prescott's perfect every game." Yeah, that's not real life. You're going to struggle. You're going to have shitty games. I would rather that happen now. And that's what you and I were talking about yesterday. As of now, I still think this is just hey, the Saints are better than what we think, and also it's just one of those weird games that happen. Now, if they're giving up 42 to the Giants in 2 weeks, I'm a little concerned, and we got to, things are going to change. But going into this Ravens game, I always said I thought Dallas would be 2-2 after their first 4. I just had it flipped. I thought they would lose it to Cleveland, beat the Saints, lose to the Ravens, beat the Giants. I kind of agreed with you earlier where it doesn't feel like the Ravens are going to go 0-3, but then I watched the highlights of that Raiders game, and I'm like, I think if Dallas can focus on the run game, I mean, who are you going to fear in the passing game? Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely? I mean, Zay Flowers is still he's okay. He's not anything that I think Trevon did. By the way, all that was going on in the pass game was against the rookie. So we do miss DeRon Bland. Let's admit that now. But Trayvon Diggs, that dude was locked down on the other side, other than the Olave, but I don't even think that was on him. I think they were in a zone. So you put Trey Diggs on Zay Flowers, and then I think Dallas actually kind of matches up well with them.
What the Raiders did yesterday is very hard for other teams to do, is basically to maintain, control Jackson into the pocket. Max Crosby had one of his greatest games ever, and no one's really talking about it. But him and the Raiders defense were able to contain Jackson and the rest of that running game. Henry had some rushes, but for the most part, they were maintained.
Yes.
And that was the key to their victory. And they just didn't give up. They realized, we're actually within striking distance. Let's just keep throwing it. And they kept throwing it. They got it to – I still don't agree with the Raiders not having an actual running back. No, I know they had Madison and Zamir White, but again, for a defensive-minded head coach, you typically would have a running back, which I don't know why they got rid of Josh Jacobs. They should have just paid him whatever he wanted.
But are we assuming he's a defensive-minded head coach because he played linebacker?
Yes.
Isn't that like with Jim Harbaugh, you assume that as a quarterback, he would be a quarterback-friendly coach, and he's actually not? And I'm not saying that in a bad way. Maybe Antonio Pierce is that guy I'm so defensive-minded, I let my offense cook, and they do what they want to do.
By the way, and I agree with you what you said about Pierce. I'm sorry. I mean to cut you off, but
No.
Every week pregame, Harbaugh is always pumping up Herbert. And I'm always thinking, is he trying to hurt Herbert a little bit?
He's like, boom, boom. And so I saw that week 1, and I almost sent that message you that. And then they did it week 2. And on one of the points, he went boom. And you saw Justin go, dude, Jesus Christ. Fucking Jim Harbaugh's like, hey, Minnesota, give me JJ. I'm going to bring him back. And you and I talked about, by the way, in the first 2 games, Justin Herbert's had the least amount of attempts that he's ever had in his career in 2 games. We said that's going to happen. And I think he can flourish in that. I just still think at the end of the day, Jim Harbaugh is going to be like, I'm not paying a quarterback that. I'm
Yeah.
going to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that he's not going to want to do it, but we're going to see what happens this season. Some team is going to want Herbert next year. So I think he's just showcasing Herbert for whoever he goes to next year. There'll be a number of teams that are going to want Justin Herbert, obviously.
Oh,
but he's going to, like, for the first 2 games, he's going to rotate Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins at running back, because they're off to great starts right now.
He'll do that all year. He'll do that all year. And part of the reason why Dobbins has been so successful the first 2 weeks is he's not getting all the carries. You know, he's a dude like from LaGrange. We covered him in high school. Brilliant running back. But he's a guy you don't want to put a lot on. And there's going to be a game where Gus Edwards is the 150-yard back. I look, you and I talked about it. We love Jim Harbaugh. I think that the Chargers instantly became a viable threat. And Quentin Johnston yesterday, 2 touchdowns. You know, if Jim Harbaugh tweaks that offense enough to where they are apt to throw it a little bit more, the Chargers, I'm not kidding. The Chargers have a dynasty in the making if they make the right moves to build up what they have, not only around the quarterback, but around the offensive line, around that wide receiver core, and around those running backs. They are super ultra talented, dude.
Hey, Joe Alt at tackle, huge guy. They're kind of basing that whole offense around him.
Dude. He is already just destroying. They had a whole thing on NFL. If you're on YouTube, go to NFL. They have little highlight packages for the teams that win. And it was like, this is the Joe Alt highlight package. And it was sad what he was doing to guys who make $10 million a year playing the game. And he's just like, boosh. Honestly, like one of the comments said, it looked a lot like Larry Allen. Like, you remember when Larry Allen, they had to kick him out to right tackle when Eric Williams got hurt, and we were all worried. And then that first game against Philadelphia, he's just destroying everybody around him. And you're like, oh, we're going to be okay. That's Joe Alt right now. He's that good. And by the way, outside of a bad holding penalty, I like what Guyton's doing at left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's been pretty good. I think Cooper Beebe has been pretty solid at center. Zach Martin.
Did he ever come back yesterday?
I don't remember.
That game got out of hand. But Zach Martin got hurt. And to be fair, I'm not worried about him, but Zach Martin has looked a little pedestrian compared to where he has been.
I think he turned 34 this year. So, I mean, he's been a pretty solid contributor to this offense. So, I don't know, man. It's one of those where it's a little concerning. He's a guy that we just plug and play at right guard, and we're okay, and we're good to go. Let's worry about other positions, but this is the year we got to start really worrying. He asked for a lot of money last year probably for a good reason. Oh no,
and he even admitted that. He said, "Look, you know, I've done," and he'd been really, and by the way, the money they gave him wasn't that big of a hit, but he had said, like, I have been cap friendly. And I realized though that, you know, I've got, if everything's, I think he said 5 years, you know, if I stay healthy and I'm enjoying the game and I feel that we're contending, I've got 5 years. And at some point, I like it when a player's honest about this. He goes, I've made great money, but I haven't made, like, I don't have to worry about my great grandkids working money. He now makes that. I'm sure there's been no updates other than last week or yesterday. So I honestly, that's a good sign because you're not going to say much. By the way, Tyron Smith yesterday, holy crap, he looked good. Like, he looked really good. I was watching some of that. Again, go to NFL. They have some really good highlight packages on their offensive line. But he looked really good and stuff. But I like Tyler Guyton. I like the offensive line, though. There was a few times that they still just, the pressure was right into Dak's face where he didn't have time to react. Like, he couldn't do anything with it. And everybody that knows intern Noe, the pro, he wants a defensive tackle that can get 20 sacks because he's right. The worst pressure on a quarterback is right up the middle. And we've now seen back-to-back games. I don't know if it's Cooper Beebe's fault or, is it Tyler Smith and Zach Martin and him just not they're still trying to figure out the connection. That inside, that A gap, B gap pressure has been a struggle for the Cowboys so far.
Dak's been sacked 3 times both games to start the season. So yeah, that is a little bit of a concern.
Well, I'm gonna say he's gotten out of about 3 other sacks because he's Dak Prescott and he can move.
I mean, he has $60 million per year to improve his body and put his strength and be able to maneuver through that.
So right now the Falcons lead 3-0 with 11 minutes left in the second quarter.
Kind of surprised. I thought this would be a blowout, even though I like what the Falcons did on the defensive side of the ball in the offseason.
I'm not as big on the Eagles as you are. Like we talked about that in the preview show. I gave them the district. Wow, we're talking high school now. I gave them the division mainly because I'm going with the trope that there hasn't been back-to-back winners since 2004. But I also had them with a really average record. I think the Eagles, I think it's odd that the Eagles and the Cowboys kind of have a lot of the same issues. Like they have an offense that should be better. Why isn't it? Is it play calling? Is it players? And then at the end of the day, I don't think the Eagles defense has matured and advanced like we thought it was. Like Jalen Carter's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but I've yet to see a game where you're like, holy crap, Jalen Carter just took over the game.
It was more early last season. I haven't seen it since like the first half of last season. I'll give you that. Right now it's like more of the linebacker play, like Nakobe Dean. Right now is kind of leading the team in tackles tonight with 4. He's a really good player. Right now with the Eagles, with A.J. Brown not being there, they're going to have to rely on somebody else. Jahan Dotson maybe, Devontae Smith.
When they got Jahan Dotson, some of the ESPN heads were, this might be the greatest offense in 20 years. And I'm like, and don't get me wrong, I like Jahan Dotson, but 2 things. Amari Cooper, when he got traded to the Cowboys, what he did was very rare. Like he immediately stepped into his new team and took over. That's the whole reason why you and I were like, oh shit, we're Joey Galloway and Roy Williams again, right? Cooper's going to disappear. He didn't. It's hard for a receiver to go to a new team and just step right in. And then also Dotson had kind of been an underperforming, and I know we can say, well, Washington's quarterbacks, but still he'd kind of been an underperforming guy as I think he just caught like a 25-yard pass. Oh, no, that was Devontae.
Yeah.
I still think they're fine with Devontae. I still think the Eagles and Cowboys both, I think they're good but flawed. But the thing is, San Francisco losing a game they shouldn't have lost. Deebo Samuels, I know we brought Deebo Samuels is now out probably 3 to 4 weeks with Christian McCaffrey, who's out at least guaranteed 4 weeks. The Niners are going into the same issue that they keep having, their injuries.
And this was an issue they had the first 4 years with Kyle Shanahan. That's why they had a losing record 3 of the first 4 years of Shanahan's tenure.
Yeah.
The last, ever 2021 through 2023, 3 straight NFC title appearances, made it to the Super Bowl last season, but they were generally healthy. Now they're going back to they practice too hard, they play too hard. That's the problem. It goes back to when we first got on YouTube last year. What I was saying, they need to expand the rosters if they're going to expand the season.
Well, and they keep saying they're going to, but they haven't yet.
There's going to be too many. Well, it's going to take the right amount of stars to be out and interest to wane with the NFL to where change is going to be done. Like Mahomes and Josh Allen, Tyreek Hill are all out for the year. The NFL's going, okay, well, maybe we should increase the roster size to 60.
Well, and supposedly if they ever go to an 18 game, they would then do the whole where you're only everybody's only required to play 16 games. So you would mix and match like how you would do that. Like, I'm going to sit outside the quarterback. I think if I remember correctly, the quarterback, that freaking food over here. Sorry, I'm getting balls on the air, Noe.
Wait, what?
Yes. She didn't even bring me like a fork. That's fine.
Oh, you're eating dinner. Spaghetti and meatballs. Nice. Can I get the review? Can I get the flavors you're getting right now? The temperature of the food in your mouth?
The balls in my mouth right now
Hot and steamy?
taste like those 20-year-olds we used to talk to.
Okay, I'll drink the coverage after hours is started. Okay, here we go.
No, it's really good meatballs. Got a little bit of meat, a little bit of balls, a little bit of sauce. The temperature is perfecto. You know what? I think I might have got this marriage thing right in the third try.
Third time's a charm is what I've been told.
That's what I say about my co-host too. But anyway,
Wait, I'm your second.
that's what I'm saying. By the way, if
Oh no!
I'm not saying we're looking for a new host, but you see that email down there. If you'd like to email me and
wait,
hey,
this is the first time I'm seeing it.
Well, we got Studio Dog in the everybody's here, ruining the show. I'm so mad I could drink. I'm a little bitch when I drink now. Anyway, you got anything else you want to talk about?
Let me go through the run sheet, man. I don't know.
Oh, no, we know. Sorry, I messed up. So normally, by the way, folks, we still have 5,000 people listening, so we got to keep talking. I don't know. They're stupid. We'll keep signing up and check out our Patreon, by the way, if you would like. Our Patreon really helped, but we're going to be doing some Patreon stuff. And speaking of that, one of those Patreons that we're going to be doing is Noe Knows. We did it last week, but it really wasn't what I didn't communicate well with Noe what I wanted to do with the show. Noe Knows will be a Patreon-only show. It'll be about 20 minutes at most. It's mainly going to be more about like who you want to play the next week in fantasy, how our fantasies are doing, who are the that waiver wire pickups and all that thing. Now, we were supposed to start it this week, and I messed up and accidentally scheduled the happy hour at 6. And once you schedule that on our system, it's just really hard to change it. So next week, starting happy hour will be at 6:30, and we'll do what we're doing now. And from 6 to 6:30, we'll record a show that I put up on Patreon called Noe Knows, and that's fantasy. So we'll end it with, how are you doing fantasy-wise? Because I'm doing terrible right now. I've only won. I'm not going to go 2-0 in any of my leagues, and I'm going to go 0-2 in the majority. But this is what I kind of do when I fantasy. For some reason, the first 4 weeks I struggle, and then I kind of find my flow.
So this year I'm in 5 leagues, and I think I'm going to be 1-1 in about 3 of them, and 0-2 in the other 2. Last week I lost all 5 games, which I don't think has ever happened to me before.
I've never had I don't think I've ever had a winless, but last week I won 2. This week I'm winning 1, and I'm in 8 leagues.
The funny thing is, you and I, well, I know me, I think you to an extent, we do better when we start slow.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's because I'm going to pick up these guys that are starting to pop up this year. Mainly like, McCaffrey being out for 6 weeks, maybe even
Jordan
more.
Mason. Yeah.
Jordan Mason has had back-to-back 100-yard rushing games. He is a fantasy football magnet right now.
I'm sorry, that goes back to me saying I love Christian McCaffrey, but why did they give him that much money when the system will fart out a 1,500-yard rushing back if they need one?
Elijah Mitchell a couple years ago.
Jeff Wilson.
Jeff Wilson, yeah.
Those guys just couldn't stay healthy. That's the only knock about them. When they play, they're good. And, Mike McDaniel from that same tree does the same stuff offensively.
Hell, he got Raheem Mostert from the 49ers to bring over to Miami to do the same thing. He had a great year last year, but he's over 30. He's not going to be able to do this forever, and he's already hurt again.
Do you think Dallas? Shit. That's what Dallas thinks. I just realized, I just put that together. Dallas thinks that, hey, if San Francisco, they don't have Christian McCaffrey, but when he's out, they have a bevy of backs, and Miami has 2 backs. Neither one of them stay healthy, by the way. They can do that. We can too. Come on, Schottenheimer. Just throw 5 backs in. And, I just feel like Dallas is 5 years behind everything. And the really shitty part is, as much as we give Jason Garrett a hard time, Jason Garrett, as an offensive coordinator, 2007, when he had 2 tight ends that were really good, had figured it out. You got 2 tight end sets. Remember Fasano? really solid tight end. Gavin Escobar did not work, and it sucks because they could have had, rest in peace, Gavin Escobar. They could have had Travis Kelce and all, and I get that, but Gavin Escobar wasn't terrible whenever he played. But Jason Garrett was ahead of something. Run 2 tight ends, both of them can catch, one of them be a mauler of a blocker, and then we'll run our offense around that. And then Dallas got away from it. And now I just freaking realized they think, oh, well, San Francisco has 5 backs, Miami has 5 backs, so we'll have 5 backs and it'll work just the same. God damn.
I think you've outranked the coverage, sir.
I'm Jerry Jones. Give me a woman to touch inappropriately. Come on, Deshaun, come over here. That's who Dallas. Oh shit, that's who Dallas was trading for.
Oh god. Okay. Well, anyway, speaking of Miami, if I was picking up a quarterback, I would pick up whoever Miami starts next week. I'm thinking it's going to be Tyler Huntley, even though they have Skylar Thompson for the last 3 years.
Well, now he said Scott. No, he did say Skylar's the starter next week, no matter what.
Well, I mean, Tyler can't read the whole playbook and be ready by this weekend. So yeah, Skylar Thompson's going to start, but he. Oh, what did you say?
Touchdown, Philadelphia.
Okay.
No, Devontae Smith, seriously, touchdown. No, I was joking, but I agree with you, but I'm just saying Mike McDaniel came out and said that Skylar Thompson's starting this next week no matter what.
Which makes perfect sense because he's the only one that actually has experience. Tyler Huntley still needs to learn the playbook. He's going to need another week or two. Now, I really think Miami will go with Tyler Huntley pretty soon because I think Skylar Thompson's going to do terribly. So if I were you, I would not. If you need a quarterback, don't do that. Go with Andy Dalton for the Panthers, who is going to start over Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick for last year for the Panthers. Dave Canales decided to bench him. New head coach for the Panthers, he decided to bench him, which I think is the right move. I feel bad. I feel bad for Bryce, but
I do too.
Dave Canales has a job. He doesn't. Dave Tepper, the owner for the Panthers, has already proven that he will fire a first-year head coach and not let him finish the season. So Canales needs to do something now.
So can we finally say that the Frank Reich firing was just absolutely stupid?
I said that last year.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Yes.
And I'm not saying that he would have done anything different, but you've literally went through Frank Reich and Matt Rule, and now you're almost 4. And I'm not saying Canales can't do it. I like his resume, but you're now kind of forced to keep him for 3 years, or you become the the George Steinbrenner of the NFL, where and again, the reputation that oddly Jerry Jones has. He'll fire a coach in a heartbeat. No, Jerry Jones does the exact opposite. He keeps guys about 2 years too late simply because he fired one dude too early in Chan Gailey and he can't get over it. Again, the Cowboys, going back to them, that's the problem with the Cowboys is they're never forward thinking. They're always trying to fix the past. We did this in the past, now let's do this, instead of being like, let's do something different. But I think if you're David Tepper, and especially when you're starting to get called the new Daniel Snyder and all that, I don't think you can fire Canales even if he isn't the guy. And I'm like you, though, give Canales credit being like, screw this dude ain't winning. Falcons haven't looked great. They're down right now 7-3. They're 0-1. Yeah, the Saints have looked great, but Tampa Bay's looked good. Carolina, they're still at least theoretically playing for a playoff game. And so give him credit. And I have to ask you, I think Bryce Young's just going to go down with the list of just bad situation. I don't know if he'll ever be able to get back to being anything more than a backup for a few years. And he'll get a couple chances. He'll be on a roster. You're the number 1 pick. You're going to get – the only reason Jamarcus Russell wasn't given more chances because Jamarcus Russell didn't want. He's even admitted that. He's like, yeah, team's called. I didn't want to do that. I think Bryce Young will get more chances. It feels so bad for him because I think if Houston and Carolina flip their picks, we're talking about Bryce Young as one of the new faces of the league. And, oh, my God, look what he's doing in Houston. And that's not a knock on C.J. Stroud. It just shows you the environment means so much when you're developing a quarterback.
100% agree there. Bryce Young, financially, he's fine.
Oh yeah,
And I'm not even talking about pros. I'm talking about college because he
yeah.
was part of that group that had the first round of the NIL deals, the name, image,
$3.5 million.
yeah. So he was one of the high. Nick Saban even kind of like talked about it and during interviews, like, yeah, he's fine. He's a millionaire. It was kind of like his pitch to recruiters or to recruits.
Yeah.
That he could be a millionaire. He come to Alabama. With Bryce Young, he could be a Jim Plunkett, where number one overall pick for the Patriots back in the early 70s. Kind of is on some teams that are not good. Go to the 49ers, not good.
And he was not good. Jim Plunkett was not good out that they won a Super Bowl. Jim Plunkett and Eli Manning actually had a better overall career. But this idea that Jim Plunkett should be in the Hall simply because he won 2 Super Bowls is false. You go look at his whole career. Jim Plunkett was not a great quarterback. Jim Plunkett was good in spurts, and it just happened to work that he was good in spurts with 2 really good Raider teams.
Yeah, the 80 and 83 Raider teams were really good.
That's why in between the first Super Bowl and the second Super Bowl, they kept trying to replace him with like Mark Wilson and people like that because he was not good. Now, again, he stretches where you're good, and he's one of those that you hold up to is it really all about the quarterback? Because he won 2 Super Bowls. Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls. Guess what? Eli Manning never won a playoff game outside of those 2 Super Bowl years. So the value of the quarterback, as you were talking about earlier, we overvalue as sports people.
Yeah, the money says we do overvalue, but this is America. We're an individualistic country. We want one person to symbolize the excellence.
Everything. Yeah,
everything.
But, I've always joked about this, and I think I've told you this before. As a country, we want to be the dynasty and the underdog. You can't be both. You have to pick. You can't run right in the middle. But that's what we want as a country. We want the quarterback to lead the team, but also be a team player. And
it's kind of like the Boston Red Sox.
How so?
Back in the 2000s, they were the underdog, or maybe even before, for the prior 86 years before that.
Yeah, you're right.
They were the underdog, and then they end up winning 3 World Series in a 12-year span.
Yeah, and they're not as fun anymore when they're not the underdog anymore. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a really good point. Well, I mean, just like the Rangers, the Rangers last year were the media darlings, and I'm thinking, you look at the totality of where they were from 2010 to now. They had that stretch from 2016 to 2022 where they were absolutely terrible for the most part. But when you look from 2010 to 2023, a 13-year period, the Texas Rangers won a series, went to 3 World Series, made the playoffs 8 times. There's nothing underdog about that. But that's the story that people, like you said, it just sounds better. It just sounds better. By the way, the Falcons are now driving, but we have a flag on the play. 7-3 Philadelphia winning with
3:25 left.
Oh, I got 255. I'm a little ahead of you. We got a flag on the Falcons. Boy, that helmet's really pretty. I even like the ATL. I thought it looked goofy at first, but this look right now, I approve of this look for the Atlanta Falcons.
It does look good, yeah.
All right, I want to remind you, starting next week, I promise we'll get back into the Patreon only Know He Knows, where we talk fantasy. We might even, going forward, have a couple preview shows that we'll record later in the week that'll only be on Patreon. All you got to do is find our Patreon at patreon.com/L4 Media Company and check it out. Dude, it's $3 a month. So during football season, we're talking like $18 a month, or $18 total. You can't even get good McDonald's for that cheap anymore. So please help us out. Makes the show better. We do appreciate everybody. 3,000 people still watching, listening now. We've been going for 2 hours and 18 minutes. I have nothing else left to say, though. I'm done. Intern Noe, how do you want to close out?
If you need a running back, Kareem Hunt, Braylon Allen for the Jets. If you need a receiver, Tutu Atwell, Brian Thomas for the Jags. If you need a tight end, Hunter Henry. And those are my fantasy picks for the week.
What are your thoughts on Andy Reid saying all day we're not going to bring in Kareem Hunt just for them to bring in Kareem Hunt? Is that one of those? And maybe I'm being a little Skip Bayless on this. Is that one of those where management was not listening? Or was that just Andy Reid being Andy Reid and being like, oh, yeah, we're not bringing him in, even though they play? Because, if people don't remember, and Carl Peterson's not there anymore, but Kareem Hunt started his career with Kansas City, looked like he was about to be the next big thing, had an issue at a nightclub and a couple other things too. And he's admitted, like, I was just not a good person at times. He got cut. He ends up with Cleveland and all. What are your thoughts on all that?
I feel that Kansas City is wanting to get a three-peat, and they'll do it by any means necessary. And I think Kareem Hunt will be a very good addition to bring him back into the fold.
If he has something left. He's 29, man.
I still think he has something left, especially with this offensive line, especially with this defense that can, let the offense be as creative as they want, especially with Xavier Worthy at wide receiver, and everybody's deadly afraid of him right now. But yeah. I like the move. Screw the hypocrisy. They've won 3 championships in Kansas City, and it's 5-year period. So, whatever. They're going for history right now. So they're going to do whatever they needs to be done.
Well, and you and I talked about this. I know people want to put morals on a pro sports team, but they're a freaking pro sports team. Their job isn't to raise your kids. Their job isn't to be role models, as Charles Barkley used to say.
Yeah,
not a role model.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, if players decide to go that path, that's awesome. Like you and I loved it. Like DeMarcus Ware, part of the reason why I love him, not only was he great on the field, but, outside of cheating on his wife for like 10 years, he was a great dude. And he did a lot of good things in the community. But that's not needed to be a good football player. And so
one more thing, I'll say games to look, since in the future we'll do previews for the next week. We'll have other shows in the future, but for now, I want to say the 3 games I'm looking forward to the most are the 2-0 teams versus the 2-0 teams. Philadelphia, they're going to win this game. At New Orleans, that'll be a big test for New Orleans. Chargers at Pittsburgh, 2 defensive-minded teams, both 2-0.
Jesus
Pittsburgh.
Christ, that game might be 3-2. I always jokingly send you that score. That over years we'll figure it out. I was like 3-2. That legitimately might be a 9-6. 6-3 type game.
And then Houston at Minnesota, the most unlikely of 2-0 teams playing against each other. Well, one of the teams.
And I think the Eagles end up losing tonight, but I still think no matter what, that's a big matchup with the Saints, because you're going to go, okay, Saints have done it 3 times, 2 of them against at least 2 playoff teams. We don't know where the Eagles and Cowboys are going to end up. I think that's a big moment for them. Now, in saying that, there will still be stretches where the Saints struggle. They'll lose 3 of 4 or 2 of 3. That's just the football now. That's why, again, nobody goes beaten. That's why it was so hard. That's why I thought Tom Brady brought that up really well, talking about the Cowboys Saints. And he goes, look, I've tried it. It's just, if you try to go unbeaten, it's just you lose sight of everything else. And you just, even as great as intense as a player as he is, he was admitting it's just really hard to be focused 17 weeks a year. And we can talk about the money, but at the end of the day, it's a job. And we can all admit, hey, we float through days. We float through weeks. You're just like, hey, I'm going to do as little as I can to get by. That happens in pro sports as well. Anyway. All right, that's Intern Noe the Pro. I'm Terry the host. Want to remind everybody, any questions, thoughts, comments, odtcshow@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook. Outdrank the coverage. People ask me about Twitter. Look, dude, Twitter is such a freaking cesspool right now, or X as they call it. We're there at Outdrank Ya. I'm rarely on there. It is like, I got in there the other day and all I saw was like animals being slaughtered because
yeah.
You know me and animals. That's just, I'm trying to go in there because I have to use that for some of my high school stuff. And so I'm trying to go on there and do all that. And so find us on there, but I'm just telling you, I'm not on there too much, but please email us odtshow@gmail.com. Until week 3, he's Intern Noe the Pro. I'm Terry Bennett, the host. This has been Out Drink the Coverage.